everybody. Ravit, I was watching you dance backstage. I love that intro song is nice and upbeat. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome back to the Modern DataFest. We're on day 2. Had an amazing day yesterday. Glad to be back. How about you, Ravit?
Yeah, I'm super excited for today's talk. We have a longer day, many more speakers, and obviously the theme remains the same, modern solutions for modern data problems. So let's do it.
Yes, absolutely. For those who missed yesterday, we'll do a quick recap of how this whole thing happened. So Ravit and I have worked together a bit before. He has the Ravit show, I've got the DataCated show, and we decided to join forces and basically throw together this virtual data party that we've called the Modern Data Fest. And we obviously could not have done any of this without our amazing sponsors. So thank you so much to AtScale, Snowplow, Zataris, Starburst, Dremio, Seller Data, Late Data, Nextla, Count, and Siflay.
Not to forget our community partners, Lights on Data, the Ravit Show, Joey Reese for giving out his amazing book and bestseller book, Fundamentals of Data Engineering, Business University, Data Science Infinity by Andrew Jones, Tiny Tech Guides by David Swinner, and obviously DataCated. So thank you very much to our community partners.
Yes, and a huge thank you to our speakers. So we've heard from a lot of great speakers yesterday. We have an amazing lineup today. Truly can't wait to get this thing started.
We can't not thank our attendees, participants, and obviously if you want to check out the photo booth, I know Kate has put out the photo booth link in the chat, so go click yourself and you'll get a notification. You'll also be updated with all the fun that we do ahead in the game. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. There is no show without an audience, right? So thank you guys for joining us. I see lots of comments coming in through the chat. So keep the questions and comments coming. We'll have giveaways, and I'll hand it over to Ravit while I share the link for the photo booth.
Awesome. So talking about giveaways, obviously our first talk is by Gaurav Rao from AtScale, and talking about AtScale, they are kind enough to go out and give away the swag, which I'm wearing, Actionable Insights for everyone, and also the AtScale t-shirt that you see in Kate's hand. So we are doing a giveaway. Do not forget to type in hashtag AtScale to get into the raffle, and we'll be announcing the winner after Gaurav's talk. Also very cool, just wanted to take this opportunity to talk about a book by AtScale and CDO Magazine with the name of the book is obviously Make Insights Actionable with AI and BI, which is contributed by 20 plus leaders. So I'll also be sharing the link in the chat for those who want to download the book. It's available for everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so many familiar faces on that from that book. So I look forward to checking it out myself. I see lots of hashtag AtScales coming through. People know how to play the game. Just one last quick reminder, hashtag AtScale. And you can get some swag. We're announcing 2 winners after Gaurav's talk.
Yes. Awesome. Kate, it's time for us to obviously talk who's coming up next. And it's Gaurav Rao, obviously. A little about Gaurav. He's currently the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Machine Learning and AI at AtScale. He's responsible for defining and leading business that extends the company's semantic layer platform to address the rapidly expanding set of enterprise AI and machine learning applications. AtScale was founded by members of the data team at Yahoo in 2013. They began working on the AtScale semantic layer after working on big data from trenches, dealing with the basic challenges of data scale, query performance, matrix sprawl, complicated data pipelines, and shadow BI. So obviously, Gaurav will be giving us insights into how to leverage a semantic layer for applied AI. Without any further ado, let's have Gaurav up here on the stage. Hey, Gaurav, we are thrilled to have you. You want to learn more about semantic layer, about how it is applied in AI, and the stage is all yours.
Thanks, Ravit and Kate, and thanks to the audience. Where's my music? I love that song that you guys came on to. I want that song now every time I go.
Should we have that for all speakers? That's
right.
Good feedback, Gaurav. We're gonna take that into consideration for the next event. We're gonna remove ourselves from the stage. Have fun. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. And for the audience, ask some really great questions. If you can put the word question or letter Q in front of your comment, it makes it easier for us. We'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Thanks so much, Ravit. Thanks so much, Kate. So, I wanted to start this conversation off with a little bit about machine learning and AI before I get into applied AI. And I think it goes without question that AI and machine learning has impacted and continues to impact both society and how we do business, right? From a societal standpoint, we're used to getting, directions on where to go. We're getting used to mobile payments in real time. We're getting used to recommendations on songs to listen to, shows to watch. My personal favorite recently has been House of the Dragon. And now I'm getting a whole bunch of recommendations based on watching that on other shows that I need to check out. And the reason why I bring up the societal point is because it's changing how we do business, right? We see enterprises and applied AI companies reaping benefits from utilizing AI for the business, whether it's to reduce cost, improve operational efficiency, improve top and bottom line margins, right? So actually generating new business models to create revenue streams. All of this is important. Now, coming back to the point of this conversation, this talk, I'm going to share two numbers with you, 554. And if I was to tell you these two numbers represented an investment and a yield, right, and relates to machine learning and AI, could you guess what that actually translates to and why we're here to talk about this? I'll pause, but I'll also give you the context. So 500, what does that number mean? IDC predicts that in 2023, annual investment and spend for machine learning and AI solutions will hit $500 billion. So that's one. The other number was 54, right? So what does 54 represent? Gartner last month did a study on production use of AI. And the study concluded that only 54% of AI models moved into production. That's 1 in 2 machine learning models never see the light of day. So we know machine learning and AI is important. We see some fast movers reaping the benefits of it. We're using it daily. Investment is up, but adoption and ROI still continues to hover and is gradually increasing. And part of that is because AI is still complex, but it lacks the business adoption, right? And what does that actually mean? So I can build, and we continue to see state-of-the-art techniques, state-of-the-art machine learning models, right? State-of-the-art latency, accuracy. All of that is fantastic, and the advances that we've made there have been fantastic. But coming back to those two statistics, if the predictions, if the insights of that machine learning model is not being applied to a business use case or a business problem, meaning those predictions are used, that machine learning model and that AI project is never seeing the light of day. So the opportunity for all of us here is, how do we take that massive investment and that massive spend? How do we take all of the innovation and advances that we continue to see in machine learning and AI, right? From early days where you used to manually train a machine learning model, figure out the relevant data sets, do your hyperparameter tuning, then, select the right features, to then training, deploying, and generating predictions. All of that has advanced significantly, right? We see AutoML tools that are making it simpler to train machine learning models and taking out all of that manual guesswork and labor. We're seeing pre-trained models, right, that people can just leverage off the shelf and retrain with their existing data sets. So what can we do to help drive adoption of AI, and how can we help businesses apply it? Well, this is where I think a semantic layer starts to come in. But before we can understand how to use that semantic layer, we need to understand some of the key challenges to delivering that business value. And I'd argue it's threefold, right? The first is, in order for a business user who's making a business decision to use a machine learning or AI prediction, it's got to be relevant, right? That's step one, is we need relevant business predictions. Businesses are dynamic, they're changing, right? If I'm doing underwriting or loan approvals, if the interest rate changes overnight, how I'm consistently applying a machine learning model to make a decision on who should get a loan and who shouldn't, that can change, right? And we need to be dynamic, not just on the business side, but also on the machine learning and AI tooling and ecosystem. So step one is let's make those predictions relevant for a business user. Step two, and this is again another challenge, is machine learning and AI and BI and business decision making typically are in two separate environments. So how do I make machine learning predictions consumable for a business user, right? How can a business user making a business decision augment their existing tooling infrastructure, right? So their dashboards. I'm in, my BI tool of choice. How can I start to make better decisions in that tool of choice with machine learning and AI when I'm not a PhD in stats? I don't have an army of ML engineers or data scientists at my hands and feet. How can I do this? And then finally, once I'm relevant, once I'm consumable, how are the predictions explainable, but to a business user in their terminology, right? We've seen huge advances in ML ops, which are very much catered to ML engineers and DevOps engineers whose sole job is to make sure that the infrastructure and the machine learning model itself is fine-tuned to run in those environments. How do we bridge that and do the same thing for a business user who's making, dashboards and reports in their BI tool? So now we come to, how do I do those three things, right? How do I stay relevant? How do I become consumable? And then also, how do I explain to a business user who knows nothing about AI all of the relevancy and the importance of that insight so that they can go make a decision? And a semantic layer, and just think of a semantic layer as a logical layer between your data sources and your consumption tools that presents a consistent definition. And that definition can be in the form of metrics, dimensions, hierarchies, and they're immediately consumable in my tools that are connected from a consumption layer, right? So that could be a BI tool. Or let's say I'm a developer working in Python. A semantic layer should be able to also understand that dialect and that tool choice. But connection is not enough. So the second part of a semantic layer definition is once you can present a consistent view by connecting and supporting different dialects, both at the store level and consumption level, how do we ensure that it's discoverable, governed, secure, so that when you start to use the data, right, that's connected to a semantic layer, you can ensure that there's controls in place. You know who's accessing the data. You know the lineage and the history of the transforms that are starting to happen and being manipulated by the different tools that are connected to a semantic layer. And finally, think of a semantic layer as needing to also be performant, because everything I mentioned to date has been, it has to be at the speed of the business, right? So the queries we generate, whether it's through a BI tool or whether it's through a machine learning and AI platform via Python, all of that has to be performant so that you're getting results and insights very quickly in the connected tools and choices that you have. And so now finally, bringing this all together, what we're focusing on at scale, which is building out the universal semantic layer, what we can do for AI is twofold, right? We can help share managed features, right? So if I've built a hub of business metrics via my BI reporting stack, I want to make that available to a developer. That could be a data scientist, that could be an ML engineer, that could be a data engineer, right? Who's going and building a machine learning model. We want them to start with what the business is already reporting against. We call these the actuals, and they can augment with additional features, additional input, right? That their, I'll say, ML pipelines demand. So that's step one. How do we bring relevant business features to feature discovery for a developer who's building a machine learning model, so that that machine learning model is starting with something that's already relevant to the business? And then second, is coming back to this concept of a prediction. How do we make predictions more usable by a business user? So we've come up with the term semantic predictions. The moment a machine learning platform, it could be open source, it could be an auto ML tool, it could be your favorite end-to-end AI platform. Once you've built and trained that machine learning model, now with relevant business features as an input, once you deploy and run that machine learning model, we want to write those predictions back into the semantic layer. And the importance of that is when you do that, that number, right? Prediction is a number. That number automatically inherits all of the business metric context you already have in the semantic layer. So when I'm making a decision in my BI tool that's connected to a semantic layer, I can understand in that underwriting use case, here's my model's performance, here's my model's accuracy, here are some of the features that I'm using, here's what's correlating now to that, loan being approved or loan denied scenario, right? So we actually start to take that exhaust from an ML pipeline, an ML lifecycle that historically has been in a different environment, and we bring that into the semantic layer. And by doing so, everything that's connected to that semantic layer automatically inherits that data and that insight. So when we come back to, applied AI and driving enterprise adoption of AI, if I can make the output of that machine learning tool relevant, consumable, and explainable via a semantic layer, right, natively in that decision maker's tool of choice, right, that becomes the way that more predictions get used, which means more models will start to be deployed, right? And we start to see a higher ROI and a higher yield. And our goal is, let's take that 54% and let's get that up to 95%, right? With the amount of spend that we have in machine learning and AI, 54% is just not good enough. So that was my conversation. I'm open to answering any questions that you guys might have.
We have so many questions, Gaurav. Thank you so much for kicking this off. Amazing presentation. I love it. We definitely have way more questions than we have time for. So we'll have to pick and choose. And you just mentioned taking 54% to 95%. So I think we'll take Dustin's question here. Yep. Where he's saying of the 54% deployed, how many models ultimately realized the ROI promised in business cases? And maybe you can also talk about how do we get that number to 95?
Exactly. And I think, Dustin, that's a great question, because even when you deploy a machine learning model, it doesn't mean it's going to stay in production. And this is where even that 54%, I hate to say it, it actually drops down to somewhere between 18 and 24%. And there's statistics out there that we can share with you. And I think coming back to Kate, your question, it's not just about deploying, it's keeping it in production, which is where I think those three challenges on business adoption come into play. Businesses are dynamic. So the fact that, the relevancy of that prediction has to stay on demand, right? And I think that's why some of these models, ultimately, I'll call it get stale, right? Ultimately, you have to retrain, you have to take them out, because as the data changes, as your inputs change, like in this underwriting example, interest rates are crazy right now.
Yeah.
Right? Overnight, that can change, and that can have a drastic impact on what your machine learning model is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravit, I'll go to you for more questions.
Yeah, I think I have one interesting question here from the audience, which I wanted to pick. Samantha is asking, can we say that the at-scale semantic layer is helping organizations to become data plus AI plus human-driven from the data-driven? What do you think, Gaurav?
I love it. I love that they added human-driven there, because, again, it comes back to both societal and us as people, how we interact with data, and it's not going away. So absolutely, at scale provides us almost a system of record, right, between AI and BI, so that as we have users of data, right, whether you're a decision maker in a BI tool or you're, one of the teams that have gone off to go build these state-of-the-art sophisticated machine learning models, either way, you need sort of that bridge. And this is where I think at scale can help, right, with a universal semantic layer.
Yes, absolutely. And I love this question from Sunny. He's asking, are business leaders pulling back on machine learning and AI projects due to the lack of ROI and business insights and actions?
Great question, Sunny. In fact, they're actually increasing. There was a very recent study that's actually showing that in the pandemic and during the pandemic, they're accelerating. And it's because, think about it. As the supply chains change, they need to become more intelligent, whether it's logistics, whether it's going after their consumers or their customers. So it's actually ironically quite the opposite. We're seeing more investment in machine learning AI because they're seeing it as a mechanism to hit top and bottom line revenue. So when you're impacting, whether it's through automation or intelligence, that's one of the things you're not going to cut back, even in a recession.
That makes sense.
Right.
And we can't not take the question from Scott Taylor. He gave a great presentation yesterday. So we've got to take his question. He's asking, how is the semantic layer different than data mesh, data fabric, and all the other hot data management trends?
Great question as well. And, I always think about it, is your data strategy going to be centralized or decentralized? And I think a semantic layer, depending on how you choose to answer that question, can support both a data mesh strategy or a data fabric strategy, depending on how you've organized, right, that question on decentralized versus centralized data management.
All right, awesome. So I think we have enough time for maybe one more question. Ravit, you want to do the last one or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think I can ask one question to Gaurav. We saw the news about the launch of data science and enterprise AI capabilities within semantic layer. So can you tell us more about it?
Absolutely. So we were excited to launch 2 new features, right? So managed features and semantic predictions. And all of this comes back to those 3 challenges that a business user has. How do I stay relevant? How do I become consumable? And how can I start to explain, right, these machine learning outputs back to a business user? So our focus now is very much, let's augment what the machine learning AI teams are doing, and let's bring that intelligence back into the environment where decision makers are making decisions. And I would argue, the only way that we can do this today is with a universal semantic layer that acts as that system of record.
Right. Awesome.
All right. So, Gaurav, you want to stay on for the at scale swag reveal? Who's doing
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's. All right. So, quick reminder for folks who are playing, we're doing a giveaway of at scale swag. We've got a T-shirt and whatever Ravit's wearing as well. Yep, there you go, another T-shirt. You put hashtag at scale play. Yes. Yep. We're gonna have 2 winners, so we're gonna draw the first one now and another one right after, I guess. So let's go ahead and roll it.
Let's do it. Let's see who the winner is.
Good luck, everyone. I see Raymond in there. He always wins. Let's see. Oh, he didn't win this one. All right, Mahboob. Congratulations. Nice. You're our first winner of the day. Definitely have more giveaways throughout the day. So let's roll this again and see who our lucky winner number 2 is. Okay.
It is Embrom.
Embrom, all right. Reach out to Ravit, both of you, and you will get your swag. I love it. Thank you so much. And Gaurav, I want to thank you so much for helping us kick off day 2. Amazing presentation. Thank you for taking all the questions that we had for you. And thanks to the audience for really good questions. I love it. Let's keep this going. Awesome. Gaurav, we'll see you online.
Thank you both, and thanks to the audience.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Tom Natz. He's the Director of Customer Solutions at Starburst. He has over 25 years of hands-on experience in data warehousing, data lakes, data integration, and architecture. Starburst has the fastest, most efficient query engine for your data warehouse, data lake, or data mesh. So today, Tom Natz is going to talk to us about why rent when you can own. I can't wait to hear about this. It's all about building your modern open data lake house. And I'm assuming it's not like an actual lake house with, pretty lake views. So we're going to hear from Tom Natz exactly what we're talking about here. I'm going to go ahead and bring Tom onto our virtual stage.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, we can't hear you. That always happens. So no worries. We can try to adjust. If you go to settings on the bottom, and maybe it's picked up another microphone for you.
Microphone or something.
Yeah. Sometimes it picks up your speaker as a microphone or your microphone as a speaker.
Got it.
Oh,
All right,
there you go.
Yep.
Awesome. You're here. I've got your
Technology is amazing.
presentation here as well, which I'll share whenever you give me the go ahead. You've got about 10 minutes. Then we'll be back for some live Q&A. Are we all good?
Yep, I think we're going to give away Ravit's lake house. So that's after this presentation. So,
Yes.
or his Tesla, one of the two.
Both. Let's do both. Why not? I'll play that game. So.
That'll work. All right.
Awesome. We'll
ready?
see you in about 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. So do I click? Oh, there we go. Okay, good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what a lake house is and why rent when you can own, and there's a reason for that, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit as well, and building a modern data lake house. So let me switch slides here. So a couple different points here. So just a quick refresher on what a data lake house is. A lot of you already know what it is, but I'll have a couple points to cover. And then we'll go over misconceptions. What is an open architecture and a modern data lakehouse that we've seen, and we're trying to push here at Starburst. And I've seen a lot of growth of it in the last 6 months, and the benefits today of years to come. So I'll put together a couple bullet points on what a lakehouse is, and I call it a data lake on steroids. And so you're taking a data warehouse and a data lake, putting them together. And then on the right-hand side, I have some pictures. I was trying to find something what the perception of a data lake right now probably still is in the industry. I was on with a customer the other day, and they're like, we can't get anything from our lake house. It doesn't work. It's a disaster. And I'm like, oh, that's upsetting. So when I look at the nice, clean, I think everything was coming from Wayfair. I don't know why, but I was trying to look for a clean closet. And this is what really a modern lake house is right now. And a lot of these people are building something just like that. The idea of 10 years ago where you just threw everything to a lake, complete chaos. You didn't have any structure to it. You wouldn't even build like hive tables. You just threw a bunch of stuff out there. That's kind of over with. So really a lake house is all use cases in one area. When I say all, I mean all, not just putting something in, throwing event type data or IoT type data in a lake, and then doing all your roll-ups and aggregations and all that stuff in ADW. I'm talking about everything in one area. So really a lakehouse is bringing all the database functionality that we've all loved and used for the last 30 something years into one place, into something called a lakehouse. And in addition to that, that's where we kind of introduce storage and compute separation. So multi-engine, and I'll kind of get into that as well. But that is to me the biggest power. You could put everything into one area and throw some kind of proprietary vendor on top of that. I call them Oracle in the cloud. But that's not going to give you anywhere. That doesn't give you the flexibility of using different engines. And sure, I'd love to say use Starburst for everything, but that's what I'm excited about it, because I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and I've witnessed lock-in for a lot of different vendors out there. So, and then also security. So that was the biggest thing about data lakes. They were unsecure. And these days, there's lots of companies that provide security. Almost every single engine that I'm going to list has some sort of security built into it as well. And lastly is really building up your base of data. That's what I like about a lake house, is it's your data, and then you're building that as your base. And we talked about semantic layers in the previous session, building that on top of it. And then on the right-hand side is the engines are changing. That's what the difference is that I've seen in the last probably pretty much 3 or 4 years. So on the next slide here. So some of the quick misconceptions I'm going to cover are, lake houses are data lakes with bad data. And so really the modern data lake house uses table formats to enforce structure. I think that's the biggest thing, is that, again, that's bringing the database type functionality to it. So you can't update or modify data in lake house. Table formats like Apache Iceberg, which I'm going to talk about, and Delta Lake bring DML, so data manipulation language, into the lake. So for GDPR, type 2s, all the stuff that we enjoyed in the database world, you can now do on top of a lake. Partition is confusion. Again, with Iceberg, they brought database partitioning to a lake house. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well. And the lake is for data scientists and not for BI. That's the funniest thing. I keep talking to more and more people when I show them that, yeah, I could build a reporting layer right on top of S3, and their mind is blown, and it's just so funny to see, like, you can do all this stuff on top of S3, ADOS, GCP, any of those storage. And also you need special skills to interact with data lakes. At the beginning, yeah, you need like MapReduce and Java skills. And I think that's when I first got into Hadoop, you needed that. And then Hive came along, and I think we've advanced it so much now that there is still a little bit of misconception, but really people are using any of their BI tools, straight SQL right on top of these lake houses. So really, what is a modern open lakehouse? And this is, I'm very passionate about this, and it's that's why I put it in bold, is the data is in your account, under your control. That's the most important thing. If I was an IT leader right now, is I want the data in my control. It's my data. I don't want it in somebody else's account somewhere else that I have to pay to get to, or if I want to go to somewhere else, I have to pay a whole bunch of money or time, huge project to get that data from one place to another. I want that data in my account. And also I want many engines and solutions that can interact with my data. There's something cool that comes out. I don't want to have to be able to not be able to use that new technology. I want to just be able to plug that thing right in. There are many use cases of supporting data science and traditional BI reporting. I think that's the biggest thing, is just all the different use cases, again, all the way from BI all the way to data science, and then no vendor lock-in. It's open. And I'll kind of cover that in a second here. So imagine I was on this weekend on the phone with my friend, and I was explaining to him, and then finally I said this to him, and he finally he lit up. And I said, what happened, like 10 years ago? Because him and I used to work together 10 years ago. I said, well, what happens if we could go from Oracle to SQL Server, and all we had to do was install SQL Server and just point it to our same data as Oracle? And he goes, oh. I'm like, yep, that's what a modern day open lakehouse is literally just having the data sitting there. It's your data. Build whatever you want on top of that, and then plug in whatever engines you want. So I came up with an analogy last night, and I said, this is the way I look at it. As on the bottom is your power. This is the power. It's at my house. It's my power. And I'm plugging in devices. So that's the way I look at it, like a power strip here. I come by and plug in all these kind of different devices, and I get to use them, right? And the way I look at it is the same thing as this. It's your data. So that your data is your electricity. And that's the kind of way I look at data these days. I don't like the term oil. I think it's electricity. It is powering your company. It's the most important thing in your company is your data. And then be able to plug these engines into your data, work on them, do whatever you want with them. This is what excites me a lot about the open. So this is a diagram that I came up with. As you can see, there's a lot of big names on here. Some of these are proprietary vendor solutions. Some of these are open source. In my case, Starburst we have this enterprise engine on top of open source Trino. So this is what excites me. And I think what the industry is really excited about with Iceberg is it's a true open source table format. And table format means literally it just sits on top of any of these storage infrastructures, S3, ADOS, and it provides this layer of metadata. And that allows you to do read, write, modifies, everything that I've talked about, time travel, all the database features that we've come to love. It brings that down to the lakehouse. And then everybody's following the Iceberg API, and you can see all these engines in here. So there's a CEO that I used to work for, Ali, with Databricks, and he always said, like, you must innovate or we're going to die. And that's what I liked about what Databricks does. That's what I like about Starburst. I like about a lot of these companies is if we don't continue to innovate and win your business, you're just going to go to one of these other engines. That probably scares some of these proprietary vendors to death because they can't lock you in anymore. So that's what I love about it. And it doesn't have to be like a competitive situation. It could be like Dask, right? Dask is more machine learning, that type of stuff. So it could be different types of engines that you're plugging into your data. And that's what gets me excited about, because I've never seen something like this in I don't know, I want to say how many years I've been doing this. I've been doing this a lot. And I used to work at Teradata. I've been in Oracle. I've been doing all this stuff. And I was always stuck into somewhere and I couldn't move around. This is what gets me excited about like an open lakehouse where you have these different engines that you can plug in. So last couple of things is I saw this the other day and I absolutely love these turkeys, because we have them up here in New Hampshire and they're everywhere. And I see these, like, this is exactly IT for the last 25 years that I've been doing this, is we literally do the same thing over and over again every 5 years. And this is something that I think why it's such a big deal is now we're actually breaking this out. We have data in one place, and then on premise, your data was stuck in a vendor's database and you couldn't go anywhere. You could do a migration to another proprietary vendor. And now we've moved to the cloud, where people are now doing the exact same thing. They're sticking their data in a vendor solution that they can't get to. Sure, it's a great solution for now, but what happens if something cool comes along? What happens if you're stuck again? So it looks like we're doing the exact same thing over again. And again, it's my data. It should be free to be used by anyone without being held hostage. I think that's the most important thing that I'm passionate about is this there's Parquet, there's all these open formats, open source formats out there. That should be my data. It should be in my account to do whatever I want with. Hopefully these turkeys will eventually leave the tree. And then lastly is really the benefits of years to come, right? So innovator or dead. This doesn't apply to just software vendors. Like I keep hearing this, like software vendors keep needing to innovate or they're going to die. Also, these companies need to innovate. You need to keep innovating on your data. We just got talking about machine learning and data science, and something else is going to come along cool in 6 months or whatever it is. If you can't just innovate and not want to be, not meaning like you don't want to innovate, it's like you can't. My data's stuck over here. I need to somehow pull it out so I can use this other cool tool that came along. That requires budget. That requires people to actually do that work. Then I'm stuck again. So I can't innovate, not just as a vendor, but as a company. I think that's very, very important. And we use this term sticky, right? I used to own a data center, and that's a sticky business. It's hard for someone to pick up and come in and take 4 racks of servers and move them to another data center. We also talk about that in the software world. It's very, very sticky. Teradata is one of them, right? It's very sticky. It's hard to get out. And a lot of these other proprietary solutions. And it can be good or bad, right? You decide. I think that's the biggest thing is, to me, sticky is where I'm stuck, right? And then also data is the energy of your company. I talked about that before. I think that's very, very important. I think people need to start taking a lot more seriously, like just not just going to whatever the cool thing. Like we used to say, like, you'll never get fired for IBM, for choosing IBM, right? Now we're seeing that with other big companies, is you should be able to be flexible. And lastly is really the KISS method, right? Data mesh, decentralized, single truth, they still all apply. Nothing's really changed in this methodology. You can still all apply this in a lakehouse. And lastly is companies start expanding, either lock in or you slowly die and don't get caught. So I think that's the biggest thing is that's what, when I talk about that, I talk about software vendors, right? They start, they expand, and they lock you in, or they slowly die away. And then you're kind of like, you're left with the hook because now you chose them. So I think that's the biggest thing is if you have control of your data, you can pick and choose. And I think that's very, very powerful. So I think that was my last slide. So I tried to go through that pretty quick.
Awesome. I love it. And again, Ravit's on mute, so I get to ask the first question. I'm so happy.
Perfect.
I always win by default. So thank you so much, Tom. Great presentation. I'll kick things off with my first question, and then we have several from the audience. But is there ever an instance where a company needs both a data warehouse and a data lake?
I think that's the whole point of a lake house.
So it combines the two.
Yeah, I have another slide, but I didn't put it on here. And there's definitely some use cases out there that are proprietary, like you're taking in data, like imagine like the FedEx model, right? A package is constantly changing times, I don't know, hundreds of millions of packages out there. That I wouldn't really say that would probably apply yet to something like a lake house, but you know, from 30% to what we're up to 95% of those use cases now can be done on a lake house. And no matter what those vendors say, I with Iceberg and some of the other innovations, I'd like to argue that. So
awesome. Ravit, I see you wearing the shirt. I saw Scott. Scott was talking about Commander Bun yesterday.
Yeah,
I love Trino.
That's great.
There you go. I love the representation. Sorry, Ravit, you were saying something on mute before, so go ahead.
Yeah, no. First of all, great presentation out there, Tom. The audience loved it, and I love the way how you present everything. Also, there is something that Brian was saying out there that they're doing a Trino summit. So do not forget to tune in. It's amazing. I've been there. They always do it. So thanks for that, Brian. A quick question from the audience that I kind of found very interesting was around one from Dustin. What does immutable mean?
Sorry,
I meant
to talk about that. Immutable means you can't change it. So unlike a file system on your computer, where like a document you can open up, make changes, put it back, you can't do that with S3. You have to read the file out and write it to another file. So S3 is great, but it's a challenge when it comes to databases and changing data.
Okay, yeah, we've had a couple of folks ask a question around time travel when it comes to data. So if you can just do a quick background on that.
Perfect. If you have an address and you move to another street and we update you in the database, there might be an instance where I need to go look back at your address from last week. That's it. So time travel's been around for a long time, but it was never in the lake before. And there's a lot of use cases around that.
Got it. By the way, I love the use of the GIFs, and my favorite has got to be the turkeys going around the tree.
I gotta go back to that. I absolutely love that because I just feel like we're doing the same thing over and over again. So
yeah, there we go. That's the one.
Yeah. I can just have that running all day long, and I just keep laughing.
And on that note, we had a question if this PowerPoint is going to be available the audience. Is it possible to share some of the slides? Maybe if you post it on LinkedIn as a PDF or something?
Yeah, there's nothing in here that I would love for people to read this and ask me questions all day long. I think it's, you could see I'm very, very excited about it. So
yes, definitely. Your passion comes through. So I think if you can post the PDF, and folks out there, if you're interested, make sure you're following Tom Nats from Starburst, and you'll get the link to the presentation. All right, Ravit,
Yeah.
any last questions from you?
I think one last question around, data mesh. Obviously, we've been hearing a lot about it, and I know Starburst is into it. So how is Starburst helping businesses to implement data mesh? Just wanted to learn a little about that.
Well, I think two things. There's really a lot of education. We have a guy named Adrian that works for us, and he's really, really good at breaking it down. I look at data mesh as really just decentralizing things. Like we used to have this concept of like agile data warehousing that we tried to implement. Didn't go too well, but the idea is more like swim lanes when it comes to that. And then we have a product called Data Products that we implemented in our software suite that allows you to break down domains into data sets and then produce those out and add metadata to them. So,
okay, that's pretty
okay,
cool.
Awesome. So now, do we raffle off Ravit's Lake House or what?
Yes, I'm excited.
Tom, you're the lucky winner. Oh my God!
Let's
Congrats.
go. A lot of use cases in his lake house.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tom, for your time today. Amazing presentation. Thank you again to the audience for your great questions. We're going to keep this virtual data party moving. Reminder, go check out the Trino Summit and follow Tom for the presentation. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Tom. All right. It's time for our next speaker. And guess who it is? Any guesses? Kate, do you know who the
I
next
know. Dr. Serena Huang.
Huang. That's very right. Dr. Serena Huang is our next speaker. She's the global head of data and analytics executive in FinTech and an international keynote speaker on digital transformation, people analytics, HR, technology, future of work, and employee experience. Serena will talk about innovation in people analytics. I'm kind of super excited to learn more about it because it's a fairly new topic. Not a lot of people, obviously have been in this space, but Serena is out there. She's an expert. I know for a fact she also have a LinkedIn course which has come out. So I'm sure we'll be asking her a lot around those things. But without any further ado, let's have her.
Yes, let's bring Serena up on our stage. Hi, Serena. Thank you so much for being here. Huge congratulations on the course, by the way. It's the data science of using people analytics. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Congrats.
All right, we're going to give you the stage. We'll be back in about 10 minutes to take some questions from the audience. We've got your slides, so we'll put that up as well.
Awesome.
Have fun. See you soon.
Awesome.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Serena Huang, and I'm the Global Head of People Analytics, Visualization, and HR Tech here at PayPal. So I made it very easy for you. For those of you who can see the screen, there's a QR code for you to follow me on LinkedIn and check out my latest course on LinkedIn Learning, the data science of using people analytics. So what is people analytics? For those of you who are new, I keep the definition very simple. We use data analytics to improve decisions about people. Again, we use data analytics to improve decisions about people. Now, I'm going to say something that's a bit controversial. People analytics is not for HR. People analytics is for the entire company. For those of you who might be familiar with customer conversion funnel, we use a similar one in people analytics, except instead of converting customers, we apply that to candidates. How many candidates do we convert to new hires? And what stage of the hiring process do we start losing candidates? So if you have a target conversion rate, we apply the same thing in people analytics. And we can figure out how to improve this conversion rate for candidates throughout the screening process, the interview process, and the offer process. Now, for advanced analytics, instead of predicting customer churn, we apply a similar concept and predict employee churn. So that's a quick snapshot of people analytics and intro. Hopefully, you'll check out my course after this. Innovation is one of our 2022 words here on our team. And I use a three-pronged approach to innovate in people analytics, which I'm happy to share with you today. First is learning focused. I want you to pause for a second here. Think back. When is the last time you learned something new at work? When's the last time you had to unlearn something at work? My favorite quote on this topic is, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Learning is a core value for me as a person, and that shows up in how I lead the team. We host quarterly learning sessions where we teach each other a skill or have guest speakers from an adjacent analytics domain internally. Because my team has two sides, a technical team and customer-facing consultants, they have complementary skill sets. So, for example, our consultants may come in and teach our technical team how to ask clarifying questions on requirements to our customers, or ask for extension in a way that would resonate with them. On top of that, all of my direct reports have a mentee on the team as well. So we check in on an ongoing basis to see how that's going. Of course, at the beginning of the year, we have learning goals for everyone on the team. And I encourage my team to pick 3 skills they want to improve on, a combination of technical and non-technical skills. And finally, to keep things social, because I'm a social person, we have a channel as well where we share content with each other, a podcast that we heard that was great, or a course that we took on one of the platforms. So we keep that learning all ongoing on an ongoing basis. So that's first, learning focused. Second, we are absolutely customer obsessed. Not only do we get feedback from our stakeholders in individual listening sessions that I host, we also send regular surveys to get specific feedback about specific dashboards. One skill that isn't talked about a lot in data analytics conferences is how important relationship building is in an organization. We invest time in building relationships with our internal customers, and having trust from your customers is priceless. I'll say that again. Having trust from your customers is absolutely priceless. As an analytics leader, I believe in starting small, quickly pivot instead of boiling the ocean. I did not come into the organization and say, I'm going to take down all the dashboards and build everything from scratch again. I was able to start with one dashboard that was most important to the business. And with the trust I built with the stakeholder, gotten her to give us a chance to completely redesign this dashboard. Then I told the developer to have fun, be creative. She came back with 2 designs, one of which our stakeholder really loved. So that's the one we ended up building, completely redesigned it, and rolled it out to existing users. It was so well received. Some of them actually asked me, did you ditch Tableau and just buy a new platform? I said, no, I created space and time for creativity and innovation. So that's an example of how we use trust and relationship building with our stakeholders internally. To innovate further, we hosted a design-a-thon a few months ago. For those of you who follow me, you might have seen a picture of that already. After we got all the feedback from users initially, we heard a lot of pain points. Most of them were very helpful, very clear. Some of them actually conflicted with each other. So rather than trying to create a design that would take into account all these pain points, we shared it with the entire team, and I divided the team into three separate teams that consisted of customer-facing consultants, BI developers, and a UI developer. I then had a panel of judges that was cross-functional and included our chief technology officer, so no pressure, right? For each team to pitch out their new design based on the feedback in 5 minutes. So within 30 minutes, we were able to select the winning design from this design-a-thon. And I'm so fortunate to be working at a company where our engineering leaders are huge champions of our people analytics product. So we even got feedback from our chief UX officer to give us feedback on the final design as an expert review. So we are now building this out. And in a few weeks, I hope to find out that our user survey scores have improved. So stay tuned. Third and finally, we are powered by modern technology in people analytics. We're currently running a POC with ThoughtSpot. Most visualization platforms will provide you the same chart for everyone coming to the same dashboard. While that might be enough for some users, typically there's still a lot of users who are not going to be satisfied with the standard view. Those complaints often turn into enhancement requests that keep a BI team very, very busy. Yet, in my experience, it's almost like a whack-a-mole situation where one user is now very happy with the new design and 300 others are not. How do you solve this problem? Well, ThoughtSpot offers real-time analytics and AI capability for users to find insights very quickly in the data. Based on the feedback I've heard from our users, we are often living in this data-rich and insight-poor world. So how do we get to data-rich and insight-rich? Not only do we leverage real-time data, we also want to offer real-time insights. And that's where ThoughtSpot comes in for us. So how are we determining the success of our POC? Well, I told you earlier, we had collected user feedback on existing dashboards. So what we will be doing is we'll ask for feedback on the ThoughtSpot, not dashboard, live boards once we start and compare the feedback between the ThoughtSpot and existing dashboards to see if there is a higher score from our users on the live boards. So if it is, we will declare the POC is a success. So again, stay tuned. Look forward to what we find from our users. We'll let the users tell us. So there you have it. That's the last one, modern technology. Our three-pronged approach to innovate in people analytics, which I hope is applicable to all of you in other analytics domains. I really encourage all of you to be learning focused, to be customer obsessed, and leverage modern technology to help accelerate your analytics journey. Now, again, if you're interested in people analytics, check out my course on LinkedIn Learning and follow me for more content.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I loved your presentation. We've got lots of questions coming in. First, props to correcting yourself on live board versus dashboard. Cindy Hawson would be so proud. I always hear her saying, no, not a dashboard. Dashboards are dead. So I love that. You started the talk with a question asking folks to think about the last time they learned something or unlearned something or relearned something for work. And it really got me thinking. And, I personally think the unlearning is the most difficult. I feel like I can relearn a skill. I can learn a skill. That's probably the easiest. But the unlearning is the most difficult. So I wanted to just ask for maybe some tips that you have for people trying to unlearn a specific skill in the professional world.
Yeah, I think the key to that is to have an open mind and not assume what was working before will continue to work. We often see people changing jobs and they go into a new company and assume everything that was working really well in the prior employer will work here. Now, no one likes to assume. And plus, if you think about just the past 2.5 years, how much you have changed as a person. So what was working pre-pandemic many times no longer works. The same applies in data analytics, which is a field that's quickly evolving. So I always encourage people to stay open-minded and challenge themselves on their assumptions on does it still work? Just because it worked in another industry doesn't mean it will work here.
Thank you.
I agree. And there was one interesting question here from the audience, from Michael, that I wanted to pick. I'm hearing people, but thinking this can also apply to party. So if not, please clarify. So is it just about the people in analytics, or it could apply to even companies or parties? Is that maybe what Michael is
definitely.
asking?
I think so. I think of organizations as a collection of people, right? So at the individual level, you have individual employees, and then you have teams, and then you have kind of business units, P&L. So it can be as big and as small as you make it. I do think a recent trend that's been really interesting in people analytics is thinking about not only individual employee performance, but how people collaborate as a team. So what makes a successful environment at work? So collaboration is going to be key, and it's not just about individuals anymore.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Great insight.
Thanks for sharing that. There was a really good question here from Dolly. So she's asking, What career paths do you believe are available to people in people analytics? And how do we go about actually building these paths? Also, shout out, she loves your content. So
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks so much, Dolly. Yes. So I think in people analytics, because you're crossing two domains, really, you have the data analytics and then you have HR. It depends on your interests. I really encourage people to think about what is most important to you. Personally, I've done a ton of soul searching in the pandemic. What matters to me as a person. So right now, my purpose is very clear in my life. And for a lot of people, they're still going through the thinking process. So if you want to be the head of HR in the future versus if you want to be a chief data analytics officer in the future, that means different career paths for you, right? On the one hand, you might need to get more HR business partner type experience to become the head of HR. On the other hand, for a chief data analytics officer, you might need to get a lot more technical experience, maybe engineering and so on. So I really encourage people to think about I wouldn't call it end goal because we now have so many careers in life, right? Many chapters, but maybe the next chapter, right? The end of this current chapter, what does it look like? And then work backwards from that. I'm a huge champion of skills, as if you can't tell already. So think about what skills will help you get there, whether that's a LinkedIn Learning course or some other course in your current learning management system that your company offers, or just YouTube is amazing. Can help you gain a lot of those skills and knowledge. Separately, I definitely encourage networking. So don't assume that a job that sounds glamorous and amazing is going to be amazing for you. I found it very helpful to get to know people who are in the roles, maybe 2 to 3 roles away from now. And I started this when I was earlier in my career, and just talk to them. What is your day-to-day like? How do you spend your time? What energizes you? What's really boring about your job that I should be aware of? And do those informational interviews up front so that you have a informed decision going in if you are stuck between, oh, I'm not sure which path I can pick. So lots of opportunities, lots of options. I love how flexible people analytics is, but I also know at times it can be challenging. So like I have too many options. I don't know what to do.
Yes, absolutely. I especially love the point about networking. That's how I broke into a data career myself. It's just reaching out to people on LinkedIn and saying, hey, do you have 15, 20 minutes to chat about your job? What do you do for a living? Do you like it? Do you not like it? People are generally so nice. I'd say 99.9% of the people said yes, they were willing to contribute their time. Some even let me record it and put it on YouTube for others to enjoy. So people are very nice in the space. So I second that one.
Definitely. Yeah, I find the data analytics community to be really supportive in general. And instead of being super competitive, I've always found it to be helpful and encouraging. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out.
Yes. We've got a question here from Mike Nash. So he's saying, most enterprises are trying to get closer to their customers. It's really important. I agree. What lessons could AI learn from people analytics, and how could they interface together? So I guess the future of AI and people analytics here.
Yeah. So one particular area that AI has been used a lot is on the hiring side. So there's a lot of platforms out there now. If you think about the resume screening process, right? Traditionally, you have recruiters, hiring managers spending hours and hours looking through gazillion pages back when people still have printers and they print them out. But now you have AI that can help, right?
I still print, okay?
That's okay. Me too. We'll keep that to ourselves. And so AI can help by turning those resumes into skills, for example, and see if they are a good match for qualifications on the job description. So you sort of have this kind of smart match up front to narrow down the thousands of applicants down to maybe the top 10%. That cuts down a ton of time for hiring managers, recruiters to only focus on the ones that are close matches. Because it's so easy to apply for jobs these days, people may apply for more. So perhaps in the past, we received 200 applicants for one job. Now you have thousands. How do you screen for that without AI? It's really difficult. So I would say that's an area that will continue to be really interesting and watching closely. The other piece is really just natural language processing. Can apply in so many different ways, right? In the employee space, we have feedback, not from customers, but from employees. We have things like performance reviews as well. There's a lot of text data in the people space. And using NLP can help you understand sentiment, can help you understand themes, again, instead of combing through thousands of comments. I lead our employee survey efforts as well in my role. And oftentimes I run into leaders who will proudly tell me, I spent all night, I read all the comments in the survey, all 20,000 of them. And I said, well, that's great. But what did you learn? Well, I forgot the first, 19,000 after I lost, right? Because our human brain just cannot process that amount of information and make sense of it. This is where you need AI to help.
Absolutely.
So I use those as examples of, save your time. Don't stay up all night reading 20,000 comments. Let technology help you.
Yes, absolutely. I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah. And one interesting question here from the audience. I know Mike Nash always has some interesting question. How much does psychology and cognitive studies play in people analytics? Should we look into these? Interesting.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So definitely in general, when I set up my team, I will have people with IO psychology background that help us think through, really behaviors at work and how are people wired? And how do we motivate employees? What works? And then incorporating data into that. So I think that's really critical. And it's not just about data, and it's about the human psychology as well. So definitely highly recommend. And in the survey space, of course, that's super critical. You don't want to design a survey without science behind it. Majority of what's important in a survey is how you ask the questions.
Yes. On that note, after this whole conference is over, I'm sending out a feedback survey on the conference. So I'll make sure I keep what you said in mind as I finalize those questions. I think it is very important. Make it easy, right? Make it easier for you to understand what the audience is saying without boxing them into specific answers. So I love it. Thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate taking the time to join us at the Modern Data Fest. A combination of DataCated and the Ravit show. I think the audience is having a great time. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, check out the course, everyone. LinkedIn Learning. Look for Serena Huang. You'll find it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Before we bring up our next speaker, we have a quick and funny message from one of our sponsors. All right, awesome. Thank you, Snowplow. Now, as I introduce our next speaker, I have to let you know that I am wearing special socks for this session, and I have been wearing them all day. They're Dremio socks that I received a couple months back, and our speaker is from Dremio. So Deepankar Mazumdar is currently a developer advocate at Dremio, where his primary focus is advocating data engineers, analysts, scientists on Dremio's Lakehouse platform and various Apache Foundation open source projects such as Iceberg, which we heard about in an earlier session, and Arrow, and that helps data teams apply and scale analytics. Dremio is the easy and open data lakehouse platform, a lakehouse platform for teams that know and love SQL. And today, Deepankar is talking to us about the Apache Iceberg, an architectural look under the covers. I'll briefly show the socks because I know some people won't believe it. I don't know if you could see that, but we've got Dremio right there. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Deepankar on stage. Hello.
Hey, Deepankar.
Hi.
How's it going? Welcome to the Modern Data Fest.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going good. I'm joining from Toronto in Canada, so yeah, it's a good day. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Amazing. Well, We won't take up much of your time here. You've got about 10 minutes. We'll join you after that for some questions from the live audience.
Sure. I hope you can see my screen, right?
Yes, I'll share your screen.
Perfect. All right. All right. So yeah, today we're going to talk about Apache Iceberg and in general how it opens up the avenue for open lakehouse architecture. A brief introduction about me. I currently work as a developer advocate at Dremio. In the past, I have been involved with data architecture, machine learning, data visualizations. I also focus a lot about the community. Like I'm very much involved with the open source community and the Apache Foundation projects like Iceberg and Arrow. You can find me on LinkedIn. I kind of post every single day, and Twitter as well. So that's pretty much about me. So since we are doing kind of lightning talks on the key takeaways, we kind of have from this session is that we're going to talk about the open lakehouse architecture. We're going to see how Iceberg fits in that and how it enables an open platform for different customers or vendors, and then a little intro about Dremio's lakehouse platform. So the evolution of the data architecture, right? Just to touch upon a bit, over the years, organizations have been really investing heavily on building centralized, reliable, and scalable data platform. The whole idea was that if they could democratize data, it would allow all sort of consumers like analysts and data scientists to leverage it and do all sort of BI and machine learning on all of the data. So data warehouse were kind of the first one that enabled to deal with the structured data, which allowed to do analytics such as BI, right? But then they lacked abilities to do deal with unstructured data, for advanced use cases like machine learning. So then came the era of the data lakes with the Hadoop ecosystem in general, with HDFS and Hive and everything. And data lakes were great. Organization could basically dump all of their data, whether it's unstructured or structured, semi-structured, in the data lake, whether it's on-premise, and now with the cloud storage like Amazon S3 and ADLS and Google Cloud Platform. But the problem is you can't just dump all of the data, and let the analyst and scientist, deal with the physically stored data, right? You want to be able to, let people use it for reporting or machine learning. And so you still need some way to organize the data and get it out in a structured way to a data warehouse. And then you could probably do your reporting. So ultimately with the data lake architecture, what we saw is that if you still have to do BI, you still have to get it out of the data lake because it's unmanageable and you need it in a structured form. So you have the warehouse. And now we have the data lakehouse architecture, which I will come into the next few slides. But I'm pretty sure you can guess from the name what it is. And we heard from Tom as well. So going back to the main problem that you just can't dump all of the data in your data lake, right? You need some level of abstraction, right? You need some level of way to manage that data so that it kind of avoids from becoming a swamp, So Apache Hive was kind of the first one to do that sort of abstraction. So it became the de facto table standard for managing data files that landed in the Hadoop file system, right? So Hive was built by the data infrastructure team at Facebook, and basically they allowed the democratization of the big data, if you may. Analysts could basically use something called Hive SQL, right? You could query the data that you no longer needed to write any MapReduce job for that. So the abstraction complexity is what we are reducing here with HiveQL and something like that. However, Hive also brought in a lot of disadvantages. I'm not gonna look into them in details right now, but and on top of my mind, performance issues, multiple engines reading data from the same data set leads to some kind of issues. So those were kind of the major challenges that we saw with Hive ecosystem, right? Now moving forward, these problems what we saw is basically turned out that these problems were pretty much same in every organization doing large scale analytics, right? And like any bigger technological organization, Netflix were kind of the main one to look at this problem. And they were thinking that instead of putting Band-Aid to each and every problem, why don't we kind of take a step back and see the actual issue with what's happening, right? So one case study that I want to share quickly is from Netflix's system called Atlas. It's basically a time series system of Netflix's runtime metrics, right? And as you can see from the data here, in a month of data, they had basically 3 million files close to 3,000 partitions, and that's a huge amount of data. So their problem was that they cannot process, more than a few days of data. For example, if you look at the query here in the right hand side, it's a pretty straightforward query, right? You're basically trying to get all the tags, based on a particular filter, which in this case is just a weeks of data from 22nd of August to 28th of August. So it's not even a huge amount of data, but it's obviously it's Netflix, and we have a larger chunk of data that we're dealing with. With Hive, this particular query took just 10 minutes to just explain the query, not even execute the query, right? So just getting from the planning to executing the query and processing the data took the majority of amount of time. And this is where Apache Iceberg comes into play, right? So what Iceberg essentially does, it's a table format to manage all the raw data files that are landing in a data lake. So like I said before, merely dumping data in your data lake would probably just lead to data lake becoming data swamps, right? So we want to be able to manage all the data and provide it to the analyst or the scientist who are going to use the data in an abstracted way, right? So Iceberg in a nutshell takes care of that. So it brings capabilities such as, you can basically use expressive SQL. You can query all the files using SQL, which everyone loves. The queries are ACID compliant, which is very important when we're going to our data lake and lakehouse architecture, because we would expect things to be as it was in a warehouse, right? We would want the queries to be ACID compliant, to be reliable. If we have some new requirements coming in, like business requirements, they evolve quite fast. And, if you have a new column to add to the table or something changes in the schema, we want to be able to, add those quickly. And Iceberg allows you to do all sort of things, right? So you can query a bunch of Parquet file as a table using a simple SQL statement, as simple as that, what basically Iceberg facilitates, right? And it is also super fast, because it is designed to be in that way, instead of what the problem that basically Netflix saw with Hive, they basically dealt with the same problem and, said that, okay, why not, we just solve that problem by making it, at a file level rather than directory level and make it super fast. So most importantly, what I kind of like about Iceberg and what kind of opens up a lot of avenue is that Iceberg is open, which means the data is live openly in Iceberg. And, it's basically an open ecosystem. It's not locked into a particular vendor, warehouse, or a system, right? So the best part about that is that multiple engines can work on the same data set at the same time. So for example, you can have you can use Apache Spark to do some processing. You can use Flink for streaming purposes or something other for machine learning purposes, right? So Iceberg basically is the key technology piece that brings the best of the warehouse to a data lake for a data lake house architecture. So I would like to see Iceberg as the key technological component that enables that. So now I think we have a high-level idea what a lakehouse is, and we talked about it in general, that it's a combination of a data warehouse and a data lake. But again, it's just not just a mere integration of the two architectures, right? But kind of bringing the best out of the both worlds. So data warehouse has great data management features, but data lakes are also scalable and agile. And with cloud storage now that we see with Amazon S3 or ADLS, they're extremely cheap. So why not leverage those abilities and scale your analytical capabilities, right? So if I have to visualize a lakehouse architecture, specifically the open lakehouse part is something that I am really, enthusiastic about, is because, like we said, the data is open. You're not locked into a particular vendor, and multiple engines can, use the same data at the same time. So it basically can look something like this, where you have, you can have a data lake, which is your cloud storage, and you can have multiple data coming in here, whether it's streaming data, batch data, and they can be in different file formats like Parquet or Avro or JSON or CSV, right? And you can use a table format like Iceberg, and you can use that format to manage all those data files. So now you have all those abilities to manage those files, right? In a lakehouse architecture. And on top of that, you can obviously run any type of engine, like whether it's Dremio for low latency SQL or batch SQL, ad hoc SQL, or whether it's Flink for streaming purposes, right? And on top of that, you can have all sort of app like Jupyter, whether it's a data science-based app where you're using Jupyter to access the data, or you're using Tableau or Looker or that kind of BI tools to access the data, which is open. So what problem is Dremio solving here? The problem with the lakehouse, or in general, the main friction with the data lakehouse architecture is that there is a friction to get started with it, right? So that's where the Dremio's lakehouse platform comes and makes everything super easy, right? So you can practically have all the data in a cost-efficient data lake storage like S3. And what basically you can do is you can connect Dremio's UI to that particular data lake source and easily create Iceberg table on top of the data. So all this is basically using SQL, which everyone in data loves. So you can use something like a create table statement and basically will create Iceberg table. Another important part of Dremio is that it allows you to natively connect to the BI tools like Tableau or Power BI. And so what you can do is you can start building your dashboard directly on the lakehouse platform. So you may ask the advantages, right? What is the advantage with that? So well, for one, there is no ETL or there is no need to move data from one system to another. So what we are kind of avoiding here, usually in the BI or ML world, how things work is that an analyst or a scientist they would like the request the data to be moved from whatever it's a lake or warehouse, and they have to wait on it for weeks depending on the timelines of the data engineering team. And this process leads to multiple copies of data, until it reaches the point where the analysts or scientists have the data to be able to use it for deriving insights. So why not be able to do that kind of reporting or dashboarding on top of the data that's directly on the data lake using a lakehouse platform? So I'm going to end it here. I think one other important part was just to touch upon was that what Iceberg is and isn't is that Iceberg is not a storage engine. It's not a execution engine of any sort, but it's more of a table format specification. It's a set of libraries and APIs that allows you to you can be any engine, whether it's Dremio or Spark or Flink or any kind of engine, and you can use it to leverage it for whatever purpose you want. So definitely one of the main functionalities of Iceberg is that it's open, so it opens up the avenue for that. And yeah, I'm going to and take any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Awesome, Dipankar. That was a great session out there. I'm sure folks have learned a lot about Apache Iceberg today. I've learned a lot about it, and definitely will be taking questions. But
Sure.
I'll let my co-host ask the first question. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. First off, thank you so much. I've definitely felt educated today because this is a pretty new topic for me. And in preparation for your talk, I did some research on the Iceberg, and I know you have something Dremio Arctic and Dremio Sonar. So maybe let's start with that. What's the difference between Arctic and Sonar? Is one hot, one cold?
Yeah, so basically the Dremio Lakehouse platform consists of Sonar and Arctic, and Sonar is kind of the main processing or the execution engine that allows you to process and deal with all sort of data, whether it's through Iceberg or any kind of data that's in a data lake, right? Mm-hmm. But then Arctic is kind of allowing you to, it's kind of like the object store that kind of allows you to manage all the data in a more optimized way. And we're bringing in a lot of new features in a couple of months or in a couple of in the next few releases that will allow people to let optimally manage the data that's in Iceberg, and that's in data lake. So that's going to be the optimization and the main store that's going to help and bring everything together for a lakehouse platform. So Sonar being the execution engine and Arctic being able to manage and meta store kind of.
Yeah, I think the one slide that really helped me understand how all this fits together was your data warehouse slide, how that feeds in with the data lake, which is more agile and scalable, and then that creates the data lake house. So I love that explanation.
Sure, that's it. And one question here, very interesting from Mike, which I wanted to pick. Mike Nash is asking, with Dremio approach, what are the key benefits for data engineering? Interesting.
Right. Yeah, very interesting question. And we are trying to hit that pain points, those pain points that we have seen with data engineering, right? So in general, like I said, with any kind of data engineering class, there has been a lot of requests for this multiple ETL pipelines that are going on, that people, data engineering teams are flooded with those requests to move data and be able to provide that data to analysts. So with Dremio Lakehouse platform, it's basically the power is coming to it's a self-service platform, so it's come to the hand of the analysts or the consumers, right? And we are trying to avoid that, eradicate that pipeline thing, and say you have the ability to directly deal with the data that's on the data lake. So definitely a lot of burden on the data engineering side is reduced, but also we are also bringing in a lot of new features that kind of helps optimize those features for data engineering teams, and be able to focus on things that are important from a data engineering perspective, and let an analyst or consumer have that agility and that self-service ability to do all sort of analytics like BI and ML on top of the data, with not, that dependency from that data engineering team is kind of shifting towards that.
Okay, very interesting. We've got another question here. It's around data governance and business rules. So maybe talk a little bit about how data governance plays in with Dremio.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So basically, a Dremio platform has different kind of so it's kind of have different kind of layers and governance capabilities. So Dremio has its own semantic layer capabilities, which allows you to basically define different types of rules and different types of permissions based on which particular team needs to have access to what kind of data. So definitely, governance is a huge aspect of when we're dealing with data, and that too, the data that is large scale and a huge amount of data in the data lake. So we have all the measures in place, all the RBAC policies or new governance policies that have been there, that has been implemented within the product itself. So everything is taken care within the same platform.
Okay, awesome. So, sorry, Ravit, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this was pretty cool. Just one question that I had around, obviously when I was looking into the Apache Iceberg, obviously, there was something where you spoke about hidden partitioning. So just wanted to know a little more about that as well.
Right, yeah. And hidden partitioning is one of the one of the amazing part of like the Apache Iceberg is that when in the in the previous era with Hadoop and Hive, right, we had basically, in high table format, we basically had, for example, if you had to partitioning is a technique that allows people to deal with kind of a limited amount of data based on the partitions. So in the high table format, we had to go through and physically know the partition location for each of the individual analysts or consumer who is going to access the data. For example, if anything changes, for example, today I'm getting all the data by month, but then I want to change that data over with day, right? In by day format. So I had to go and make all those changes and probably resetting all the data in the table. But with Iceberg, it kind of brings that functionality by default. So you have transformation abilities, and Iceberg knows intelligently. So you don't have to do those kind of physical partitioning. Users don't have to know that location of the physical location. So now that's one of the biggest features that Iceberg brings in.
Okay. By the way, I love how passionate you are about this. You're so excited to talk about Iceberg.
Yeah.
I love it. We've got a great question here from Brian on the Iceberg. Are you assuming that the data in the data lake is clean, curated data?
Yeah, so Iceberg basically, kind of brings that ability to do those integrated audits and make sure the data is of certain quality. So obviously, the problem that we saw in the previous architecture with data lake is that we are not sure whether analysts or scientists can use that data because it's a huge amount of data that's just lying there. Companies are dumping it, right? So with Iceberg, we are able to have those integrated audits. We are able to make sure that before we publish that data to production table, we are able to do those kind of audits and checks before that. So definitely Iceberg brings those capabilities.
Okay, awesome.
Pretty
I think a good final question is that, I think people are still wanting to learn a bit more about this. So where can they go to continue their education on the topic?
Exactly, yeah. And I was going to go back to that. So we at Dremio, we have a subsurface community where we do a lot of things on open source, specifically on Iceberg and Arrow. And, I myself and, a lot of my, colleagues contribute a lot to that subsurface community. And there are also these excellent blogs that are part of the Apache Iceberg official page. So, or Apache Iceberg is something that, I can share in the slide as well. And again, post out all the link. I personally post a lot on Iceberg every single day, almost on LinkedIn. So, that, I also make sure, I have the right balance of that. But I can share all the slide and information that I have, and, that would be great. Yeah.
Oh, I see Ravit shared the official page. Thank you, Ravit.
Perfect.
And
thank you,
for
Ravit.
the audience, make sure you're following the page and make sure you're following Dremio and Dipankar. And apparently he posts about this every single day. So now I'm going to see this in my feed because now I'm following you. I love it. Thank you so much for your time here today.
Thank you so much, Ravit. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dipankar.
Awesome.
Have
Thank
a nice
you.
bye.
See you online. All right,
All
Ravit,
right.
keep this party moving. I got coffee. Let's do this.
Awesome. So let's talk about the next speaker. But before that, I mentioned to our audience out there that I was preparing some giveaway for them because I heard a lot of cookware talking going on. I don't know, since the start of the Modern DataFest itself, like the day 2 start, I see Scott was talking about some cookware, and it was none other than the Ravit Show cookware. So just for that, obviously, I bought this cool giveaway, which I'm planning to do for everyone out there. What you need to do is, obviously, you don't get the cookware. That's just
I was gonna
for
say, if I was grabbing my phone. I'm like, if we're getting the cookware, I'm gonna play. This is.
It's the T-shirt, the cap of the Ravit Show that you get. So feel free to type in hashtag the Ravit Show, and you win. Obviously we'll be picking up the winner towards the end. So 2 of the winners will actually have the swag of the Ravit Show. So don't hesitate to type in the Ravit Show in the chat. And it's time for us to call our next speaker. It's Vidhi Chugh. Vidhi is a data transformist and an AI strategist with a vision to build trustworthy AI solutions. She has over a decade of experience enabling data-driven solutions across multiple domains, including digital advertising, risk analytics, e-commerce, and supply chain. Vidhi will be talking about key elements of a winning AI strategy. I'm sure out there a mic is, was waiting for this, where there's a topic about AI. But everyone out there, feel free to ask questions to Vidhi. We'll be taking it towards the end. Without any further ado, let's have Vidhi on stage here.
Hey,
Hey, Vidhi.
Vidhi. I saw you backstage there. I hope you're ready for this. We're very excited to host you on the Modern DataFest. Thank you so much for making time for this.
Hi. Thanks, Ravit and Kate, for the introduction. I hope my voice is audible and the screen is on share.
Absolutely. We're going to share your screen as soon as Ravit and I get off the stage, and we'll see you in about 10 minutes for some Q&A.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I hope you are all having a great time listening to the insights from the industry experts. The topic I have to discuss today is on sharing the factors and the considerations for building a winning AI strategy. As the topic itself focuses on two key components, one is AI and another is strategy. So let me talk first about AI. AI has a table stake discussion in almost every business strategy. And for all the strategy, and for the strategy part, when we talk, let's first discuss why do we need a strategy in the first place. There are multiple projects that you can pick for a particular business vision. For example, it could be related to cost savings, or it could be about enhancing the customer experience. In order to achieve those business goals, which should be the right project that you need to pick, which that acts as an ROI of your time and the effort that you spend on it. Setting up the project and not picking the right project can act as a disappointing step to the strategy. The wrong project in terms of not knowing the challenges and not able to foresee the risk for those particular projects is going to impede the success for the AI strategy that you've built upon. So a strategy is basically a roadmap which takes a high level goal and then takes us down to a very well laid out, and it's more about the implementation rather than the design, which is what typically everyone thinks about as a strategy. So now that we know the strategy and how it helps us identify which particular project should be picked first in terms of getting the business ROI, let's see what exactly changes when AI's component comes into the picture. While designing AI strategy, you need to understand that AI is focused on data. It's all about data. So do you have the data being made available in the first place? And data availability is not the only concern. Having the right data in terms of data quality, and does the data has a pattern in it that decides the success of your AI project. The next one is that the business also needs to understand the probabilistic side of an ML solution. So what I mean by that is that, are you aware of what kind of impact every incorrect ML prediction can make? Because ML is a probabilistic solution, there are possible errors and the accuracy terms that are associated with it. So understanding the difference between deterministic output and the probabilistic solution that comes with ML is key to picking the right project for setting the AI vision for your company. The third and the most important is to understand the end user and the impact that particular AI project can have on it, which constitutes the responsible and trustworthy part of it, where who is going to be impacted, who is going to be the end consumer of this solution. That is very pivotal in deciding it as one of the important metric in building an AI strategy. So what I've discussed about strategy so far, these are some of the factors that I've listed in terms of summarizing. The very first is to see what is the cost of carrying out this particular AI initiative in terms of infrastructure. It could be in terms of the team that you need to execute that particular project. Is it really scalable? I will give an example. For your particular solution or the particular AI project, does it cut across various verticals, and is it specifically catering to the needs of a particular project or a team? So that's also one of the way to measure whether which particular project do you want to prioritize. The third one is build or buy decision. What part of an AI project that you are undertaking, what particular part of that project is something that you can afford to build in-house, or is it better if you take outsource it to vendors? The third one is the value proposition. The fourth one is a value proposition, which could be improving the customer engagement or experience, or is it focusing on improving the operational efficiencies? The other one is on success metric, which in my eyes is very crucial because that talks about the business vision, the way you understand the impact of a particular project on the business is different from the scientific measures that we generally talk about as a success. So the success criteria for a particular AI project, which could be in terms of accuracy of the model, is carefully need to be calibrated in terms of the impact it's going to have on business. For example, if you're having an AI project or a model which is 80% accurate, do I understand the accuracy or the precision or whichever metric I choose for that project, the kind of impact it's going to have on the business outcome? If I am talking about the increase in number of conversions, what percentage increase do I see with the model of that accuracy? The other one is on data having a pattern, which I've discussed on AI specific component before. The data needs to have a good signal for a model to get trained on and give a reasonable predictions on when it is put into production. The ethics and the trustworthy component is something which has taken the has become at the forefront of deciding which particular AI project should be taken as priority. And all the questions that go into deciding whether this project is going to have an is going to be ethically correct or it's compliant to the regulatory frameworks is important to be asked right in the beginning before you go neck deep into the project. It's difficult to gauge and it's really an abstract concept, so to say, but asking and taking help of different teams, it's a cross collaboration. It helps you speed up the success of the project. The last one that I want to emphasize is evangelize. The more you see the adopters of your AI solution in the organization, it it deeply increases the confidence of the team who is working on those initiatives. So these are, considering the time brevity, these are some of the factors that I've listed. There are more to it, but I'll take a pause here and see if there are any questions, and then we can see what others might think are the components that constitute a winning AI strategy.
Very interesting session, Vidhi. Thanks a lot for this. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely learned a lot in around the AI strategy, and would love to obviously ask some questions. I know Mike Nash out there was talking about the ROI and end user driven, which is fantastic point. But to start with, obviously, I had one question which was around why is it important to have an AI strategy in the organization? Like, what about the companies who don't have AI strategy? How do they kind of, go through? So just wanted to learn a little about that.
Yes, definitely, Ravit. So I think most of the times what we understand is that business strategy is definitely something that every organization has. And a
Right.
large part of when we design an AI strategy has a higher degree of overlap with what business strategy is already in place. And a strategy is something that you envision yourself for next 3 to 5 years. So if there is a goal or an objective that you want to
Mm-hmm.
achieve, you have it in your plate for next 3 to 5 years, that these are the set of actions that I can take to achieve that particular vision. Now, for you to have a successful AI strategy, it's important to think of those goals and then take it back to what you need to exactly pick today to be able to achieve that for next, maybe in the next 3 to 5 years. So I won't say that it's starkly different from a business strategy, but those are the additional concerns. If you don't really know, we see that a lot of projects, they don't really go to production. You don't see all the models that or the proof of concepts that the team build on, they don't really get deployed. Maybe it's because what I believe largely is that not all the challenges or the risk that we foresee were kind of taken care of, and it requires the leaders. It's a cross collaboration. It requires leaders from different verticals to come together and challenge those assumptions and see
Right.
which one should be prioritized. So if you have an AI strategy, the time to ship a solution increases.
Yeah, I love
Okay.
that. And great presentation, Vidi. Thank you so much. I had a question. You mentioned regulatory aspects and making sure we take that into consideration when designing our AI strategy. Do you have any case studies, examples, or maybe even steps that you can share that need to be taken when you're designing an AI strategy, and how does this regulatory aspect play into this?
Yes, Kate. So it's a little bit specific to the industry and the domain in which we are building the solution.
Mhm.
The one example that I generally think is very important for all of us to understand is coming from the healthcare perspective. And these are the high stake. These are the fields which are involving high stake critical decisions that impacts the end user. So considering healthcare, it could be talking about judiciary or maybe the insurance, for example, like assessing the credit worthiness of an applicant. So
Mhm.
these are the cases where the impact of every wrong decision or the prediction made by the model is going to create a significant impact on the applicant or the user, right? So from these perspective, ensuring that what kind of impact it's going to create, the one very fundamental factor is to understand the explainable part of it. So am I able to explain the outcome coming from the model every time? And with that, I
Mhm.
need to understand, can I trace it back if I know that it's making wrong predictions or the model performance is degraded? Do I have the capability enough to roll it back and kind of debug it? So this is one of the fundamental pillar of having an ethical AI solution.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think those are pretty cool, interesting insights. Thanks for that. One question that I had with you is, when we talk about AI strategy, obviously, there are a lot of hurdles that come your way, and obviously the teams kind of face that issue. So, what are the basic challenges to, setting the right AI strategy according to you?
Yeah, Ravit. So I think setting the right AI strategy is a work in progress. That's the best answer I can give. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
for this is all the AI projects themselves are very experimentative and iterative by nature. So as you evolve, once you start with the proof of concept and start building an
Yeah.
MVP, there are a lot of bottlenecks and issues that you face along the way, based on which you keep calibrating it. So it requires, I would say, more fluidity and agility as compared to a typical business strategy where the chances of unforeseen events happening are relatively low. So I think that's the fundamental, I would say, overarching view of developing the right and successful AI strategy.
Okay, that's pretty cool. One more question that I had was around, when we talk about AI strategy and also data-driven culture, and in a company where obviously both of them kind of align together, how do you say that, okay, how do you align both of them in a way where the business kind of runs very smoothly?
Yeah, an excellent question, Ravit. So I think data-driven culture, data is the underlying theme of all that you do in the business. In fact, which project to be picked first is also data-driven. You need to develop, like the
Mm,
ROI, what I mentioned, is also a deciding factor that what are the returns that I expect from this particular
yeah.
initiative. So you need to have a certain way or a certain numbers or the data to stack order your priority or expectation from each of the project. And so I think data is a fundamental theme. Based on that, you decide so based on which you decide the success of your AI projects.
Oh, pretty cool. I'll now take a few questions here from the audience. One very interesting question. Obviously, Mike has two questions. I'll definitely be taking both of them. With an AI strategy, should there be an evolving or static approach during the AI project lifecycle? Interesting.
Yes. This resonates well with what I mentioned before. So yes,
Yeah.
specifically with respect to AI strategy, the need to have more agility towards the end. So I think one thing should remain static, which would be the end or the overall business objective that we were trying to solve. it could vary in terms of how much percentage of it do you think is really achievable. But once you have a clarity of what business goal are we after, then other factors in terms of what kind of skills do we require, what kind of infrastructure does it demand, and what kind of cross team collaboration it demands, for example, right? It's not just done with the data analytics team within the organization in silos. So other variables definitely needs more of the agility, and you need to keep improving on it as you go along. But there has to be one anchor point based on which you decide, okay, this is the vision that I had set for. How much of it is
Okay.
actually achievable as I go along the project? So that kind of flexibility really helps in taking the
Okay.
project. Yeah.
Okay. Those are pretty cool insights. And this second question here from Mike as well. There has been recent stats on a high proportion of AI ML models don't get to live state. Are there any solutions for this?
Absolutely. And the answer to all those solutions lie in I think it's all about taking an inventory stock of seeing what are the possible challenges in terms of, have I thought through about the business objective very clearly in the first place?
Mhm.
And I think that's where I also mentioned that not all the proof of concepts that we build or all the projects that we start go to production. So it also goes back to that, have we thought about data in the first place, which is what you also
Yep.
mentioned, Ramya, being data driven. So I think data is not a differentiator that a lot of organization has these days. Almost every organization has a lot of data. What is
Yeah.
different is that, do they have quality data? So I think quality is not really a factor when people look for. So they say that, okay, there are a lot of data, pipelines that are flowing through, and it must be something
Mhm.
that we make use of. So quality of data and understanding whether the data has reasonable signal on which AI machine learning algorithms can learn the pattern from. Having data itself is not solving the problem for us. So when we come from that perspective, that the fundamental success of a project, specifically an AI project, lies on the data itself, and then ensuring that all the integration, I think, is one of the biggest challenge, that you have a particular proof of concept, you want to not scale it up, but
Right.
the tech stack itself can become a challenge, and not having the right skill in the team, where the technology adoption is a bigger barrier in implementing an AI solution. So these are some of the factors that you need to foresee and kind of prepare beforehand, before even starting a particular initiative or before even starting a particular project.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think these are typically seen as challenges across many organizations.
Very true, and I agree. Great insights, Vidhi. Thanks for sharing all the insights. Thanks for such an amazing session today. It was really good to have you up here, and thanks for the amazing questions by our audience. I will see you around, Vidhi. We'll keep the ball rolling. We'll keep the party moving.
Yes, Vidhi, thank you so much for your presentation. Sorry, I was in and out handling modern DataFest business. We're all good. So thank you so much for your time. We will definitely see you online. Guys, make sure you're following Vidhi on LinkedIn and follow her insights there as well.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vidhi. Bye.
All right,
Awesome.
Ravit, before we bring on our next speaker, we do have a quick sponsor commercial here, and yeah, enjoy.
Awesome.
So what AtScale does is we make data analytics ready. And what that means is that we take really complex, messy data and we put a business layer on it that makes it easy to consume by business users and data scientists.
So what AtScale wants to do is make it much easier to access this data and much easier to blend third-party data with your first-party data sources to build better, smarter business intelligence models.
We ultimately sit on top of the analytics stack, aggregating one logical view of all data and providing that data back out to the BI tool of your choice.
All right, I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker, Li Kang, the VP of Strategy at Stellar Data. He's previously worked at Redis, MapR Technologies, and Informatica. Stellar Data provides enterprise support and cloud services for StarRocks. It allows you to achieve true real-time analytics. And today, Lee's talking to us about building a modern analytics platform. I think that's the perfect talk because we're all about modern solutions for modern data problems. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Lee up on our stage. Lee, you're on mute, but hello and welcome to the Modern Data Fest.
Hey, Kate. Hey, Ravit. Thanks for having me here.
Welcome, Lee.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us. I see your slides are there. We're going to hop off stage for about 10 minutes, and then we'll be back for some questions from the live audience.
Okay, so I can just present my slide from here. Okay, oh, great.
Yep, you're all good.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. So my topic will be building a modern analytics platform. So before I talk about how to build a modern analytics platform, let's first take a look at the shift of analytics roles in today's businesses. Traditionally, analytics has always been about strategic planning, understanding the status of the business, right? Planning for the next period. So it was more for batch-based operations, meaning we are gathering information on the maybe weekly, monthly, quarterly base, right? The users of these strategic of these analytics applications usually are internal users, and usually they are a selected group of internal users, right? Executives, business analysts, and usually they are a set of standalone functionalities or applications. But what we're seeing in today's enterprises, analytics is playing a much bigger role, right? In that sense, it is shifting from strategic to a, in addition to the traditional strategic role, it is also playing a more operational role, right? What that means in terms of functionality is that we need to handle real-time data, right? Instead of a batch-based information. We need to be able to service not only internal users, but also external users. And the analytics functionality is not only standalone capabilities anymore. It is actually embedded in an application, website, or your daily workflows. So that's what we are seeing in terms of the shift of analytics roles. So with that shift of roles and responsibilities, what we're seeing in the market today is there are so many different types of analytics engines, right? If we look at the data platform, we started with data warehouses, and then we moved to, or we introduced data lakes. And on top of data lakes, right, you have to have a query acceleration layer. Those are different query engines that make it possible to run analytics on data lakes. And obviously these days, right, all the data warehouse or data lake products are merging into this lakehouse architecture, which gives you the best features of both data warehouse and the data lake, right? So lakehouse analytics is really about batch processing historical data for use cases like planning, reporting, dashboarding, machine learning training, right? Prediction, that kind of use cases. And then in the last several years, we are seeing real-time analytics becoming more and more popular, right? Or at least getting more attention from the enterprises, right? Real-time analytics, their goal was, like I mentioned earlier, right? Is towards operational use cases. So data tends to be more real-time or near real-time, right? We're not talking about hardcore real-time like in the machine tooling, controlling, right? Or a vehicle operation. We're not talking about that kind of a real-time. We're talking about in response to a business transaction or event happens on the business side, and being able to make a decision in near real-time, which usually means 1 or 2 couple seconds of latency from the moment that event happens to a response or a decision is being made on the analytics side, right? That delay is only a couple seconds. So that kind of real-time analytics, we're seeing they usually connect to a real-time data sources like a streaming application, and it's about current data, current status of the your business, and it's about operational uses and use cases such as in-app decision making in your application, in the video game, in your purchasing transaction, right? Recommendation in terms of e-commerce, that kinds of that kind of use cases are the powered by real-time analytics. So with these two different types of backend data platform and two types of analytics use cases, we are facing many different analytics engines, right? There's a set of data warehouse product and query engine products. They're designed to handle lakehouse analytics queries, more for the batch-based use cases. And there are a set of real-time analytics products or engines, right? They are more geared towards connecting with sources like Kafka or change data capture and run the analytics on this real-time data stream and make a real-time decision. So we have two types of use cases and we have two types of analytics engines. And naturally that also translates to data flow, right? If you remember in the Hadoop days, that there were discussions around Lambda architecture, right? If you think about that concept and apply that to a broader enterprise scope, that's basically where we are now today. Is this two types of data platform and two types of analytics engine. So overall, right, these analytics platform, they have to, you have to maintain two different set of technologies and different, and from the end user standpoint, that usually means business analysts or your end users, they have to learn two different type of, sometimes it can be reporting tools, sometimes can be two types of query languages, right? So there's a lot of inconveniences, if you will. So in this in today's enterprise, right? That's why at Stellar Data we are promoting this concept as a new analytics platform, or you can call it a new analytics engine, right? The idea is we don't need two different sets of technologies and to run two different analytics platforms, right? We just expand on the traditional use cases or scope of the analytics engine. So in this diagram, at the very center is a StarRocks core analytics engine. StarRocks is an open source MPP database, right, where we can provide the best analytical query performance. So traditionally, this engine is used just like any other analytics engine, right? It's used for standalone analytics applications. It is used for batch-based processing. It's used for the service internal users. But because of StarRocks' powerful real-time processing capabilities, right, we can expand its usage to cover embedded analytics scenario, where analytics is built into your product. So modern data product where you can provide through API, right, provide your product data as a product. You can also embed analytics capability into your data product. We can expand the batch processing to real-time processing. So we're not only analyzing data stored in the data lake, right, through some ETL or data integration processes. We also connect to streaming data sources like Kafka, like change data capture, And the beauty is we can update our analytics results in near real time. When the moment the event happens, you will get the latest update. And from that information, from that analytics result, right, you can drive your decision making, your recommendation, your fraud detection, all kinds of use cases with that real-time analytics capability. And because of the StarRock's core engine, right, we're able to service thousands or tens of thousands of concurrent users. So that means not only we can service the traditional analytics use cases like internal executive team or a business analyst group, right? We can also use it to support all the field workers, right? If you are making a decision about a sales transaction and you need data-driven, data to provide you this information to make your next decision. And all these frontline users, can be hundreds of them, can be thousands of them, right? We support these frontline users. But also you can even extend this to external users or partners. When you provide your product or services, you can always offer an analytics capability. For example, let your partners or your end users, consumers, be able to build a dashboard, right? Look at analytics about their accounts, their systems, or their usages through this kind of a dashboard and analytics capability, right? You can even provide a benchmark across all your user base, right? Provide a benchmark and then make it a value-added service for your users so they can compare to their peers, obviously with all the aggregated information without any data violating any data privacy laws or regulations, right? That kind of use case allows you to provide a lot of value-added services, and all these capabilities or services are driven by this expanded analytics capabilities. So that's the new modern analytics platform I'm referring to, is expanded beyond the traditional analytics capabilities to service today's modern applications and use cases.
Awesome. This was great presentation. We learned so much about modern analytics platform. Obviously, this is something new to us, at least for me. So learned a lot about it. Learned a lot about Zilla Data, StarRocks. I'm sure Kate already has questions. She's thinking of.
I do,
Kate,
absolutely.
I'll let you go first.
Yes, Lee, thank you so much for the presentation. So off the top of your head, and obviously you won't have an exact number for this, but what do you think is the percentage of companies out there that actually have a modern analytics platform right now?
The platform like I defined, which is the single platform to support both scenarios, right? There's not a lot out there yet, right? One of our customers, Airbnb, is on the road, started that journey, right? They have several use cases, to support. One of them is to support the Tableau front end, right? For the business users. That's your traditional dashboard type of use cases, right? And another one is real-time fraud detection, right? That's obviously a real-time use cases and operational use cases. And the third one is their internal metric store, Minerva project, which has both batch information, historical data, and the real-time data. So, these three scenarios basically covers from your traditional dashboard batch-based scenario to the real-time operational scenario. And Airbnb are building these use cases on top of the StarRock's Seller Data's platform, and they have planned for a lot more use cases down the road. So I think that's a great example of a modern analytics platform.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more about the fraud detection. If you could just share, I don't know how much you can share about this, but maybe a bit more detail into that use case.
So yeah, fraud detection is like the typical. You don't want just to. Well, detection may not be the best term, right? It's more. You need to find out, but you need to make a decision to prevent it from happening, right? So stop it at the moment. The whether you in Airbnb's case, it can be a host, can be a guest, right, who's trying to commit the fraud. You don't want to wait until a day later you find out that happened, and then you trying to recover the loss, right? So the real time aspect is really critical, right? And you obviously comply to a lot of the financial service industry as well, right? But there's a lot of complexity there. You need look at many factors, and you look at of this specific transaction, and you also need to look at the historical data. So how do you if you look at the data journey, right? The first part is when that event happens, the suspicious event happens, how fast can you gain the visibility, right? See that event. And then from the moment you get that event, how fast can you make your decision, right? That's your query, your analysis part. So those two combined together, that's why the real time, with a real time data streaming data source and this analytics engine work together to provide this capability.
Okay, pretty cool. One question from my end, Lee. Obviously, we've heard about the capabilities, but also, can you share some technical challenges of real-time analytics? Like when you're dealing with obviously customers, what are those technical challenges that they come across in real-time analytics?
Sure, that's a great question. Thank you. So fundamentally, the analytics platforms, the core of this platform is a query engine. They were not designed, or a lot of the query engines on the market were not designed to handle these challenges very well, right? The query engines cannot just when you have large amount of data and large number of users, a lot of these query engines will struggle with query performance, right? And then other real-time analytics products or data warehouses trying to develop workaround solutions, right? From adding more indexes to building out materialized views, right? So we just took a different approach, or harder approach. Is why don't we fundamentally solve this query engine performance issue, right? So that we can just go query these data as the way they are stored in the database or on the data lake, and give users great performance. And then on top of that, you can add other techniques like indexing, like materialized views. But fundamentally, we developed our new query engine from ground up, and we leveraged modern CPU technology, leveraged push the algorithms like a cost-based optimizer, parallel execution. These algorithms, we just push the boundaries, right? And we also pay attention to the engineering details. So the result is a solid, high-performance query engine that can truly support large amount of data, large number of concurrent users, and can handle this real-time ingestion super fast. So that's the why we're able to provide today's query results to our customers.
Wow, I love these insights, and I'm super excited about it. Like I'm kind of obviously when it comes to learning more about real-time analytics, it's super hot right now. Also, there was a comment in the chat there. Walu is telling real-time is definitely gaining more traction now. So 100% out there. Kate, can I ask one quick question again?
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll have one last one after that. Go ahead.
Okay, so since you were on this, you were talking about the technical challenges. Also, do you have a case study that you could share with our audience on real-time analytics, which could be kind of relatable for them?
Maybe Airbnb. That was a good one.
Airbnb also has this, another use case at Airbnb, in addition to the fraud detection I mentioned earlier, right? Another one is Airbnb developed this new concept called metric store, enterprise metric store. That's where you collect metadata definition, right, about your data assets and make it available to the business users. So that platform by itself has a presentation layer where they define all the metadata information and make it available to the end user. But also at the back end, there's a data servicing layer, right? That's where they need to be able to calculate and provide this analytics results very quickly, right, to the end users.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
They've been building that for a couple of years, and version 1 of the Minerva project was building on some of the competitive technologies, and they were running into this, because of some of the technology challenges I mentioned earlier, right? They were not able to grow this platform to support all the internal demand, both from the delay from the time the event happens to the moment they're able to provide the insights, right? And also the hardware cost to maintain that platform. Multiple technologies and for both batch and the real time, right? So they evaluate StarRocks and decided to use StarRocks as the service engine,
Nice.
provide data service layers, for both real time and the batch processing to support. Now I think they have like several petabytes of data and thousands of internal users and tens of thousands of metrics that they're running on that platform. So it's a great story. And
yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And the final question I had for you, Lee, was where can folks go to learn more? So is there a website they can go to?
sellerdata.com, our website.
Okay.
Follow us on LinkedIn, and also if you like the product or this concept, go to GitHub StarRocks project page and give us a star, and let's build this together, right? It's open source project. So.
Star for StarRocks. I love it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
We're going to keep this virtual data party moving. So round of applause, virtual round of applause for Lee. Thank you so much.
Awesome, Lee. Amazing. Let's get the ball rolling. Just a quick reminder to folks who have joined us. Obviously, we're still giving away the Ravit Show swag because we are talking a lot about cookware lately. So the swag will be...
Those who did not join day one are confused by the cookware, I'm sure, but follow up with Scott Taylor. He'll explain it all. That's all you need to know. All right, Ravit, go for it.
For sure. Awesome. So our next speaker is Salma Bakog. She is the CEO and co-founder of Sifle, a full data stack observability platform. Before Sifle, Salma was an executive director at Goldman Sachs in sales and trading in Asia, where she led key data and analytics initiatives. Sifle is a full data stack platform, as I mentioned, delivering actionable insights to data engineers and data consumers. Salma will be talking about the future of data reliability. I'm super excited about it. So without any further ado, let's have Salma up here.
All right. Salma, welcome to the Modern Data Fest virtual stage. Glad to have you here.
I'm very happy to be here.
I see your slides now, so we're all good. My computer had a little glitch where you disappeared and now you're back. So glad you're here.
Good.
And where are you tuning in from?
Yeah. Oh, I'm in Berlin. I was here, with the team for the Berlin Data and AI Summit.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
What time is it for you now? It's pretty late, huh?
It's 7 p.m.
Okay. I guess not as late as for Ravit. So Ravit's a trooper here. So
yeah.
All right. We won't take up much of your time. So you've got about 10 minutes to do your presentation. We'll be back for some live Q&A. Really looking forward to your talk.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Kate. All right. Hello, everyone. Okay, here are my slides. Hi, everyone. So for people who don't know me or Sifle, I'm Salma, I'm CEO and co-founder here at Sifle. Sifle is a data reliability, data quality management solution. We kind of have a different approach in the sense that we are full stack observability tool, and I can go into what that means in more detail in a bit. So when Ravit and Kate approached me to speak at Modern DataFest, and they suggested that I speak about the future of data reliability, my initial reaction was, wait, I don't hold a crystal ball, so I can't really make any big statements there. But I'm fortunate enough to be building a company in this space, and so I guess I can at least share some insights from my vantage points and from what we see is shaping the category over here at Sifflé. So let's get started. I hope everyone sees my screen. So we're gonna talk a little bit about what happened and what shaped the data engineering space in general over the past few years. It's, first of all, data engineering is a constantly evolving field, and I feel like in general the definition of it and the expectations around data in general from organizations is a forever moving target, and what it means depends really on the stage of both the business and the data maturity of the organization. But I feel like if we want to make some general statements and describe what happened in the data engineering space over the past decade or so, the emergence of a whole plethora of new technologies in the space have kind of shaped the data engineering, the role of the data engineer, as well as the expectations around data, and made, in general, the processes a bit more smoother and a bit more automated. So when data engineering first emerged as a job or as a responsibility, a lot of companies were struggling with very simple problems, but that were quite challenging at the time, which is how are we going to transform raw data into insights and things that make sense for the business, right? So a lot of the job of the data engineer was centered around building infrastructure, building pipelines, making sure that there is enough processes in place that can move data from A to B, point A to point B, and really trying to create a whole infrastructure that could support what the company was trying to achieve with data. Now, obviously, when you are building things from scratch, when you are using a lot of manual processes, when there's a lot of coding involved to create, pipelines and transform the data, model the data, etc., things can break, and inevitably you end up in a situation where you're constantly firefighting problems, right? And so the first or the most natural reaction for data practitioners is to start looking at what other adjacent categories have done over the past few years, and more mature categories, and the closest one is software engineering. So implementing testing the pipelines, implementing checks at the data level, and stuff like that is kind of a natural progression to achieve a certain level of reliability of the data assets, and have a preliminary data quality framework. Now, if we look at the presence of the data stack or the data engineering space in general, the whole revolution that took place and that's led to the creation of a lot of technologies over the past decade or so helped automate a lot of the processes for data engineers. And in each compartment of the data stack, you'll have a variety of mature hosted solutions that can help make the life of data engineers a little bit easier and help them manage the complexity of the data platform at scale. Now, this is what you see in my slide is a pretty simplified version of the data stack, but in reality, in most organizations, the data stack looks like something like this. So what do you do when the complexity of the platform keeps increasing, the expectations of the stakeholders keep increasing, and the expectations from the overall or the expectations around the data team in general keep increasing and keep on changing and evolving with time. So when you, as I mentioned earlier, when you initially start with data quality, the initial reaction or the initial, the natural thing to start with is to start implementing testing and basic anomaly detection. This is a good place to start, and there is a lot of open source solutions that can help, getting started with data quality, getting started with quality checks, testing the pipelines, etc. But the problem with this approach is, first of all, it can be extremely manual. It needs a lot of time to set up, does not scale well, etc. The second biggest problem that we've seen working with hundreds of companies of various sizes and from previous experience as a data practitioner is that you end up in a situation where you get so many alerts about so many random things breaking all the time that you get to a point where you just start to ignore the alerts and you get to a point of alert fatigue, which can be extremely dangerous because that one time you're gonna ignore an alert, it's likely going to result into something very disastrous for the business. Another challenge to this approach is that it favors, or it kind of increases or makes the presence of silos and the lack of ownership a bit more accentuated, in the sense that everybody's throwing the ball around data quality. Like, is it the responsibility of data engineers? Is it the responsibility of data product managers? Is it the responsibility of the data consumer? And more often than not, this leads to actually a dilution of what the company sets as objective as far as data quality and data governance go. Now, in preparation for this talk, I had a pretty existential discussion with my team because, and without taking this into a vendor push, because we as Sifflé have created industry's first and only full data stack observability platform, in the sense that we cover everything that can go wrong at the data, metadata, and infrastructure layer. Now, the question that I got from my team preparing for this is, okay, is this the present of data reliability, or is this the future of data reliability? The thing is, data observability as a category in general is relatively new, and there's a lot of different approaches that have emerged, and it's only a matter of really leaving it to the end user to decide what kind of expectations they have from the data and how they want to define data quality and data reliability. So for the sake of today's presentation, we're going to focus on the full data stack observability approach, and what I think is where the industry overall is headed, because we are definitely getting to a point where companies want to embrace the complexity in the data infrastructure. They want to leverage data to its maximum potential. They want to create more use cases. They want to start using ML to get better and smarter about the way they make decisions. And so really the constant in all of this is that the complexity is only going to increase. And so now the question for data practitioners becomes, okay, how do I embrace that complexity? How do I navigate that complexity? Because it does offer me flexibility to an extent. How do I navigate that and take the best advantage I can from data and from the flexibility that the data infrastructure is offering me? And the answer to that is full data stack observability. Now, what is full data stack observability? Let's first define data observability. So data observability is really, again, it's a new category, but the way we define it is a collection of signals and metrics that can help both data producers and data consumers get an idea about the health status of the data assets. Concretely speaking, how does that look like? So if say you have a data stack, you have your ingestion tool, you have your transformation orchestration layer. So you have the transformation layer, you have a data warehouse, you use BI for some analytics, you use a reverse ETL because you want to take further advantage and loop the data back to the business. You use some ML use cases that you know your machine learning engineering teams or your data scientists are working on, etc. You want observability to help you achieve trust in the data and in the infrastructure that supports data at any stage of the data pipeline and at any stage of the data workflow. So if we use the definition full data stack, and this is where our approach comes into the picture, Cflare, for example, is a top of stack layer. We sit on top of your existing data stack, your favorite tools that you've already used and trust. And we collect signals at the data, metadata, and infrastructure level to ensure that if something breaks, we let you know. And if something breaks, we let you know for sure. But more importantly, we give you the insights on how to fix it and how it's likely to impact the business. If we look at the anomaly detection part specifically, and this is, I think, where the line is drawn between what's done in the present and what's going to be the future of data reliability in general, you definitely want to look at anomalies that impact the metadata, right? Like that's, I guess, what most people start with when they start using data in an organization. You want to look at whether you're ingesting the right number of rows. You want to look at the distribution of your data. You want to look at schema changes and get ahead of them. You want to look at the volume of your data, etc. But you also want to look at anomalies at the data level, or you want to detect anomalies with the data itself. So say, for example, you're an e-commerce platform, it's Black Friday, sales are happening, but you want to make sure that there is, you know, the prices that are being published on your e-commerce website are actually accurate. Say, for example, you know, there is a logic that the price should never be negative, or the price should never be, you know, below a certain level, or stuff like that. Or say, for example, you're working on a machine learning model that's going to be trained on a set of data about certain demographics. So you want to make sure that you're getting zip codes in the right format. You want to make sure that you're getting email addresses in the right format, etc. So in your data quality framework or in your data observability framework, you definitely want to also include metrics about the data itself. Now, and this is where I think we're going to be moving towards in the future, is really the concept of the reliability of the infrastructure supporting the data, and how you can take it even a step further and look at things like efficiency of the platform, performance of the pipelines, performance of the applications that are supporting the data assets, and really have a better understanding of how different applications are connected to each other and how it is likely to cause data quality issues, if at all. And for that, for example, there's different approaches to go about it, and the idea is not to recreate what's been done in the software engineering space, but really to adapt it to the data and data infrastructure, and get ahead of data quality issues before they even become or before they become business issues. So that's the high level approach. I'll be happy to take this into more detail if anybody's interested offline. And I think we can call Kate and Ravit back to the stage so they can ask some questions.
Awesome.
Hello.
This is great. Yeah,
Thank you.
Great information about data observability, full stack observability. Salma, we're a fan. At least I've heard a lot about full stack data observability from you. And I'll let Kate ask questions. I know for a fact I've already asked you a few questions earlier, but Kate?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, amazing presentation. I love the slide that had like all the companies. I think that's when you said the full modern data stack looks like this. It looks kind of crazy. I don't know how people are.
Yeah. We think it looks like this, but in reality, it's a bit more chaotic than that.
Yeah, let me show it one more time here. Yeah, this. So that's the present, right? I think there was another one that looked a bit more chaotic than that.
Just right after that one.
Yes. Oh, I can even move your slides. Awesome. Yeah, this one.
Exactly.
This is the one that like, how do companies navigate this? Because that's a lot.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of companies think that simplicity is what's going to help them get a better grasp of their data assets, and it's true, right? In reality, it's true. In theory, it's true, but it's so unrealistic, and especially as the company scales and as you onboard new use cases, as you start to collect more and more data externally, it just becomes impossible to keep track of where everything is going.
Yes, and my follow-up question is, how do you actually get business buy-in, or how do you convince business leaders that data observability is important and that they need to do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There is a question that I always ask our prospects is, when was the last time that you had a data quality issue? Or when was the last time somebody from the business called you questioning a number on a dashboard?
Right.
And it's really a matter of trying to explain things in their own language, because if you go and ask a data engineer or a data practitioner whether they suffer from data quality issues, for sure they will say yes, right?
Of course.
But in order to get buy-in from the business, you need to explain and plead your case in wording and in language that makes sense to them, right? So you can start with something like, do you feel like you overall trust the data products as are produced by the data team? Do you feel like, are you happy with what we've been delivering in terms of dashboards? Do you feel like we could do something different? And in most cases, it's a matter of just trying to speak their own language and pointing them in the direction that makes sense. Another way to do this is obviously to try to compute a potential return on investment of a data observability tool. So say, for example, if your team is taking too long to produce data products, if your team is spending too much time troubleshooting data pipelines, stuff like that, you can actually put numbers on that and present it to the business. And finally, and this is more of like a carrot versus stick approach. Finally, unfortunately, there's been a lot of highly publicized data catastrophes, and you can just use those as a reference. Right?
That's true. Data catastrophes is what we call them, right?
I love it.
Someone else coined that one. I forgot who, but they were on my show. We called the show Data Catastrophe, so that was fun. Ravit, you want to take a couple questions from the audience before we wrap?
Yeah, 100%. One that I'll pick from the audience and very quick. I like that question. Yeah. By Fernando, very easy question. What does CIFLA mean?
I think we get this question all the time. I think we need to add like a frequently asked questions on our website where we define siffler. Siffler means whistle in French.
Whistle.
So that's the alerting part in the tool, because we do send alerts when something breaks.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a good one.
Awesome. And one last question that I had for you, Salma, was, what is the biggest gap in data observability today? How do you think it will be filled in the future?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think, and again, this is a relatively new category, and I met Sanjeev in person in London, which was a big moment.
Wow.
For me. I'm a big fan of his work, and we had a discussion about this, and it's interesting to pick his brain on where he sees the gap as like somebody from the outside, because I can tell you this is what we do, this is where I think we're going, but I think it's important to talk to somebody from the outside to also understand how the market is perceiving this new and evolving category and where the consensus is headed. Obviously, I'm biased, so I do think that the full stack approach is the approach that makes the most sense. But also, it's as the category is gaining in maturity, so are the expectations from the users of data observability tools, right? Maybe in the past few years, people were just okay with getting alerts when something breaks inside of the warehouse. But especially now and in the current economic environment where everybody's downsizing the teams, everybody's looking to be extremely data driven. You can't just get away with just monitoring data that's in the warehouse. Like, you need to cover all of your data assets. And you need to think about things like pipeline usability. You need to think about cost. You need to think about how are your resources allocated. So I definitely think that the market is going to converge towards a full stack approach that really can answer any question you may have about data and get ahead of any data catastrophes.
We're going to watch this 5 years from now and see if your crystal ball prediction is correct. Sama, thank you so much for your time. Amazing presentation. And thank you to the audience.
Salma.
Great questions. Keep them coming. We have our final speaker. Thank you, Salma. We have our final speaker of the day. I get the honor to introduce her, so I'm really excited. I'm going to introduce Miko Yuk. She's just an all-around awesome data professional, great data leader. She's the chief data evangelist at Count.co, co-founder of BI Brains, host of the Analytics on Fire podcast. She has trained literally thousands of individuals on how to strategically use the power of data visualization to enhance the decision-making process. I'll tell you a bit about Count. So Count brings your data team and business together. We want them together so you can solve problems, not just look at charts. I love looking at charts, but I know we need to do more than that. It's built for hybrid work. Count supports the messy, iterative nature of analysis so you can extract the most from your data. And today, Miko is talking to us about the art of data collaboration. We need more collaboration. She'll tell us how to reduce analyst workflow by 75%. That's huge. I'm going to go ahead and bring Miko up on our stage. Hello, welcome to Modern DataFest.
Hey. How are you guys? I was enjoying Salman's presentation. That was great.
Yes, absolutely. And I thank you for being our big closer of the day. So you've got about 10 minutes to do your presentation. We'll come back for some Q&A. The stage is all yours.
Okay. All right. Hey, guys. I'm seeing the comments, trying not to be distracted. So hello. It's interesting because I was listening to like the last two presentations because I just came off of high holidays and I'm so excited. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So I decided in the light of collaboration not to have any slides because I feel like I'm dying of PowerPoint to some extent. So we're going to have a good discussion about this and I'm looking forward to seeing the comments. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about collaboration when it comes to dealing with data, right? A lot of times, if you are having to collaborate, it's typically through meetings of some sort, right? It's usually in a meeting or you're trying to like gather requirements or you're doing some type of process that truly a lot of people they cringe when they think about it. And so the interesting thing about this is we go through this kind of like process where we quote unquote collaborate in these meeting rooms or virtually as of late. And then we come up with these requirements and then these requirements require a little bit more collaboration. And then essentially in my world, we end up with some level of data visualization. And we are then not happy because no one uses it. And so what we discovered is that when it comes down to collaboration, people really are struggling, okay? So I'm going to pose the problem to you guys, and I'm going to give you guys a few solutions because I only have 10 minutes, and then I hope this will go into some great Q&A. All right, so being a Count.co, what was fascinating is, I don't know if you guys have read this article, Dashboards Are Dead. And then later on, we had Gartner kind of put this as the #2 trend. But the reality is that dashboards are not dead. What they are good for is operations. And my colleague, Ryan Dolly, wrote a really good article about this, and he termed this, listen to this. Dashboards are great for operations, but they're also ad hoc generating machines. So I remember like a couple of years ago, I used to teach people and say, hey, you know what? Dashboard are for answers, not for questions. But the reality of creating dashboards is once you produce them, guys, and all in favor say aye. Anybody who's experienced this, once you produce a dashboard, you end up with a million questions, right? And then from there, you kind of go into this patching scenario where you're putting all these things onto your dashboard and you're hoping for the best. And then you end up with what I call the Incredible Hulk. And no one kind of knows where it got broken, okay? And so the in-between collaboration that happens, in my opinion, is fairly dysfunctional because what you end up happening is you have people that are sending you additions or requirements or feedback, with regards to what they want. And it's coming in all over the place. Like it's coming in Slack, it's coming in email. It could even work physically, right? And so, you're just stand up there, you're thinking, okay, and this was me, by the way. So I'm talking from personal experience, and you're thinking, okay, this is never going to come to an end. And so this is where it kind of took me over to go, okay, listen, there has to be a better way to do this, okay? And instead of being focused on the output medium, which is a dashboard, maybe we need to focus on the art of collaboration and make sure that we're kind of tackling that first, right? Like this is where it starts. And so kind of jumping into that, I want to give you guys some good tips on how to kind of tackle collaboration, because I do so many presentations on this and I teach people, and I actually physically see kind of the friction that happens. So first and foremost, when it comes to collaboration, the first thing that you need to remember is that you need to be human. This is really important. I don't know what happens in like corporate America. Like we go into these modes of like, probably why I'm at a startup, of like, when we get in front of people, we turn into like these robots and everything becomes quote unquote professional. The problem that it's not real. Like if anything we could take away from TikTok is be your true self, okay? So the first thing I recommend is like, number one, be human. The second thing I recommend when it comes to collaboration is similar to almost dating or a relationship, is it shouldn't be forced, right? Like, and it feels that way sometimes when you're inviting people to a meeting, you get in the room and it's just like, let's go, and it feels kind of forced. Like you wanna make sure, there's a rule that I teach called the 3 nods, okay? And I teach this to my students and they love it. And so the 3 nod rule is when you get into a room, you want to ask a single binary question, okay? And the binary question should have a yes or a no. So what we tend to do is we ask the question, for instance, so I walk in, I'll say in the room, hey, is everybody doing okay today? Yes. Okay, is everybody settled? Yes. And so what they've scientifically proven is that if you get people to give at least 3 yeses back to back, their brain goes into a congruency pattern and it begins to actually match your brain. Now, that is something a lot of people don't know, and do not abuse this. I tell my students all the time, do not abuse this technique. If you have a teenager, you could try this at home. It might actually take like 50 nods, right? If any of you have a teenager at home. But if you try this technique on your spouse or your partner, it's actually been scientifically proven that your brains go into congruency and the person is more likely to agree with you on things, okay? The other thing that I like to teach, so that second rule, just so I see Case writing it down, is to get into congruency as quickly as possible, whether you're in person or not, or online. The third thing that I like to teach people when it comes to collaboration is really important, which is be less focused on the technology and more focused in on the person. And so what I like to do is, instead of jumping in and saying, hey, and sometimes I go too far with it and saying, hey, let's open up the report. Let's take a what we have. Time is of the essence. I do like to ask people and make sure it's stuff like, hey, just let's take a step back, close all the stuff we have. And I like to ask you what you're seeking to accomplish today. Like it's really, really important. And I try to get in deeper and emotionally into like what they're trying to get out of this, not to automate a report, but I want to hear things like, you know what, I got to do this report every end of the month and it's killing me. So I don't want to do it anymore. Right. And so that's where I get into like feeling the pain of like, this person feels like you're on this treadmill, they can't get off. And so I try to get quickly and teach you guys how to get into people's pain as quickly as possible. And then I think the fourth thing is really important, and I go back to my colleague, Ryan Dolly. He's awesome, by the way, from Count. He's our head of data. And, he kind of broke this down when it comes to the medium that you're focused on and the output. I always say, look, everything is not a dashboard, right? And so one of the things that I think is important that he taught is he talked about the fact that there's something called data presentation fit, okay? So there's 2 components in terms of how you view your delivery, right? Sorry. There's 2 sides to the coin. He's probably like, look at me, you're messing it up. He helped me with this. He said there's 2 sides to the coin when it comes to data visualization. There is what you deliver and there's how you built it, right? And so we talked already about how you built it. I think the other thing that's important, and I like the way he phrases this, is he says, data presentation fit is important. And that's where I go back to saying, a dashboard is not for everything. Okay, dashboards are great for operations, but it's important that you look at other mediums when it comes to being able to get to solutions. So without going into like a vendor pitch, I know for me personally, I've built over 1,000 dashboards in my career. Okay, and I reviewed God knows how many other good, bad, and ugly. And one of my big takeaways from it is, you know what? A lot of times the failure when it comes to data visualizations is not the deployment or the visuals and all this other garbage people are obsessed on. It's actually the collaboration process that they went through to get there that was broken. Therefore, their outputs are broken. And so what we are seeking to do at Count is we're seeking to challenge people to redefine collaboration, where instead of kind of coming in a room together, having a nice conversation, doing the freaking data kumbaya, going away and then coming back with a quote unquote product, what we're recommending is why not work and solve the problems together? And I'm very passionate about that. This is coming from someone, again, that's built over 1,000 dashboards in my career, okay? Which kind of ages me, but I have to tell you, I've just seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I think, you know, what we feel is that when it comes on to making great decisions, and that's what quote unquote dashboards are for, there's a few things that you need to do, all right? Number one is, which is what I'm known for, is you need to make sure that you're telling stories. Okay. And I know you guys have heard a lot about that. Number two is you need to make sure that you guys have embedded context. So instead of what I talked about earlier, where you're on Slack and you're on Outlook and doing all these crazy threads. I remember one time I had a requirement gathering session that had 298 emails in a thread with someone asking to clarify a requirement. If I could only find the person who created the reply all button in Outlook, me and them would have a discussion. Okay. Anyways, number three then is to make sure that you have a set narrative, right? Narrative being kind of the structure of your story, the events. Number four is make sure you're able to annotate. And I think last but not least is making sure that you're solving the real business problems. Okay. So this is kind of this framework and this new way of working that I'm a big champion of, that Count is focused on. And so the real purpose of my presentation is just to invite people to, instead of being so focused on the end medium, if you really want to tackle, and I put it on here, right? I said, how do we reduce this entire analyst workflow by 75%? Let's redefine collaboration. Let's not just think of the world as black and white. I gather requirements and produce a dashboard. Let's dig into the collaboration portion of it, redefine the way we work, make sure that we have things really centralized, not just our data, but our comments, the story, the narrative, the entire process of requirement gathering, prototyping, and the final product. And let's get people engaged and let's keep them engaged so the story doesn't die after the process. Okay, so I didn't get a chance to read the comments, but I'm excited. So Kate, that is what I have for DataCated and the MDF book.
I love it. Thank you so much, Miko. Yes, we've got lots of comments and questions that came in. I also have questions prepared. Ravit has questions prepared. Since you're the final speaker, we can literally go for the next hour, but we'll take a couple of questions. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So Ravit, you want to kick things off? First question?
Yeah, 100%. First of all, great presentation, Miko. We loved it. I've seen the comments. People love it. We love your rules, the principles that you explain, and obviously your analogy behind dashboards, and your experience speaks for itself. So thanks for that. One quick question here that I wanted to pick from Mike Nash is like the idea of collaborative. Okay, he had a comment like the idea of collaborative analytics, as there are so many platforms and that takes the client's eyes off the business and objectives. But do you have any use case to share your, Miko, by any chance?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Mike, for that comment. I think that's a really good comment. And the reason why I didn't use the word collaborative analytics is, unfortunately, if you go into Google and type it in, the definition's a bit muddy. So I was very careful with terms. People might go in Google and look for it, because all you get is a lot of marketing of all these BI tools that say, hey, we're doing collaborative analytics. And all they're showing you is like an admin log that is pretty. That is not collaborative analytics, okay? The world has advanced now, right? For God help me, we have a freaking phone that's probably right now going to start sending me BI tools, right? Because it's listening to what we're saying. So just be warned, I'm not big on the cliche terms, but yes, so I can give you one quick use case because I know we're kind of pressed for time. So I have a good example of a client. I want to go back to that 298 thread email that I talked about. I can't name the client, and that was a very simple thread. So what we did is we did requirements gathering, and there was one metric that was new to the company that they couldn't decide on, and it literally Ravit and Kate started a thread of people saying, "Hey, how do you measure this?" Then they brought in their colleagues. How do you measure this? Then they replied all to a group. How do you measure this? And I mean, it was a 300 email thread of people saying, I like it or I don't. And you know what I realized in that segment? I said, you know what? I wrote them and I said, hey guys, I think the way we're collaborating is becoming dysfunctional. Why don't we get in a room and get on a whiteboard and take a look at this really quickly and really understand what this is? And so long story short, by completely diffracting ourselves from this crazy message trail, we were able to come down to a metric that worked. And then we implemented a polling system instead of an email thread, right? That was quickly able to get a consensus on what was the right term for that KPI. So I think, again, the collaboration that we have right now I feel in data, I don't know, it just feels forced and not natural. And a lot of data people don't even like to collaborate, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, when you were talking about that 298 reply all email, you brought back some of my horror stories from just corporate world of the reply alls can get kind of crazy, but very interesting example of how we can get better, right? An area where we can improve.
Yeah.
And I really like this question from Jessica. She's asking, what are some of the most common problems that actually harm collaboration? So one was probably the tools, right? They were trying to use email to collaborate where you found an alternative. So what other obstacles do folks face when they're trying to collaborate?
I think just bulldozing through people's and ignoring stuff like people's emotions and feelings. Like I read a book, right, called that my mentor gave me called Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play by Mahan Khalsa. And he literally talks about like when you get in a meeting to understand the onset things of when to stop the meeting. A lot of people don't understand. Just because I get into a meeting with you, Ravit, if I get in and I ask you, hey, Ravit, how are you going? You're like, you know what? My son just got into an accident, but let's get this done. No freaking way. Like, I'm like, no. The answer is no. It means your EQ is off, your energy is off. And we go into this robotic mode of like, oh, okay, you know, Ravit's an executive, so his emotions must be stuffed somewhere in his feet. The answer is just no. And people do this. You guys know this. You're smiling all the time, right? We go, oh, Ravit's senior, so he'll figure it out. His son's an accent. Seems like it's fine. I just go, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's do this another day. It's not life and death. Let you go take care of that. And I'm doing it not just for your sanity, but for the fact that my output will be affected whether or not we want to admit that. And so I think that we go into this robotic mode. So I always say people first be human, then be a freaking analyst, right? Then be a data person. So that's probably not the answer most people are expecting, but I see this happen all the time. Like think about Zoom. Someone has 4 kids in the back running around. Stop the meeting. Like, dude, I was on a Zoom. Someone, the guy got guacamoted on his head, right? And he was the COO. And I was like, there's a lot happening. He's like, yeah, my son's, I need to get his medication. I said, listen, hey guys, I know it's a lot of us here. Maybe he should step away and we continue. But it's like, just be human first, man. Like, seriously. People just, you know, EQ is important. So again, not the typical answer, but I think if you do those things, Ravit number 1 comes back to me and says, hey, I'm straight. Let me deal with you first thing in the morning. I realize I really appreciate what you did. And there's just a different level of respect.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. One, Kate, I would like to actually pick one question here from Scott, which is kind of, you know, obviously on the same lines. Where do you find the hardest part of collaboration? Is it between peers in the same department or between different departments?
Absolutely same department for a number of reasons. 1, we assume we're thinking alike. That could not be further from the truth. A lot of times when the department and we're thinking, oh, we all been here for 10 years. I've been here to Ravit, you've been here for 5. Kate, you've been here before me. So there's a lot of similarity. Number 2 is I feel like in the conversation, there's what I call baggage, right? So if Ravit is my boss and Kate's my report, and you know, there's all these hierarchies that are in people's heads. And so the conversation kind of gets filtered because, you know, Ravit's my boss and I'm kind of new and I don't know if I should be saying all of this, you know what I mean? Or, you know, Kate's my colleague and she's, you know, she works next to me and we just had this discussion, but no, I might contradict her. So there's all these things that go through your head. So I personally feel like if you are speaking to people in different departments, it allows you to literally just be what you're supposed to be, which is the guide, not the hero in the conversation, and facilitate it instead of thinking about all these different things that you know, right? Just baggage. You just know stuff. You can't unknow them.
Yeah,
That's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we'll take one more from the audience, but then I also have one more. Maybe Ravit has as well. So the audience question is from Fernando. What are alternatives to dashboards? Come on, Miko, this is your time.
I know, but I'm not here to do a vendor pitch, but honestly, it's why I dropped dashboards and went to Count. We have a whiteboard with data because we are focused on not people. And we don't, by the way, if you're building dashboards, I don't mean to crucify them. Well, I do mean to crucify them. But if you're building dashboards, because ironically, you can build dashboards in Count as well. What we're recommending instead is to get down and analyze the problem together. So we're not saying the output can't be a dashboard or report. We're focused on the process to get there, where it may not be a dashboard or report because you actually saw a problem before you needed this kind of set medium to fix it. So I would say, you know, dashboards are still available, reports are still available, but I'm just tired of everybody thinking that's the only way for you to visualize and express an output. It's absolutely, like, we are beyond that right now. 2023, LFG. Oops, sorry, Kate and Ravit.
LFG, as long as you didn't say what that stands for, we're all good here. This is a PG show.
Let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. Let's freaking go.
We could say that. So, all right. I know my last question for you, and then I'll let Ravit wrap it up. The last question is, I know you don't want this to be a vendor pitch, but I've seen it and I think it looks really cool and I want other people to see it. So where can folks go to actually see how this works? Is there a free trial or what do you have going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to check out what we're doing at count.co, you can just go to count.co, click on request access. To get moving faster, just put Miko LinkedIn on there or MDF. I'd say actually put MDF, Modern DataFest, on there, and it'll get you through the queue a lot faster. So our queue has a little bit of a delay because we have good incoming. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and check it out, and once you get in there, you could actually play with all the templates and see what's happening, and just bring in a colleague or friend and just start tackling data problems. Like, that's where we want to get people to. We just want to get them back to solving problems together instead of just resorting to these non-dynamic and static mediums. It's a good question. Thank you, Kate.
Love it. Of course. Ravit, I'll give you the honor of the last question of the whole show. Go for it.
Yeah. So my question is, how does Count fit into the broader modern data stack? Would love to learn more about that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm not the techie, of course, but our entire tool is bred off the modern data stack to the point where we don't even connect traditional databases, right? So we literally connect off a Snowflake, all the modern data stacks that, you know, we connect to Azure, Synapse, and a few others, which you could see on the site. But what we are looking at when it comes to the analytics workflow, right? Where we sit is what we call the last mile of analytics. So if you are familiar with analytics workflow, we feel that in the very last mile, where it comes down to humans needing to interact to make decisions, that is where Count shines, okay? So this is after you've put the data in one place, after you've put rules around the data, you know, all these other steps. This very last mile is where Count really helps companies to really shine when it comes to their data. And so not everybody is there as yet, but there are a lot of people who are there that don't even recognize that they're there and they're stuck and they're wondering why is it not working. That is where our platform comes in to help you as a team.
I love it.
Great question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, Miko, thank you so much for being our big finale. I love it. I always bring the energy. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time here today. You do still have questions coming in on the chat if you want to hop over to LinkedIn, Miko. That would be great. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Ravit, can you believe it? We are at the final 5 minutes of the show.
Exactly. It has just flown by. The time has just, you know, gone by so quickly. I don't believe it's been 2 days. It's the end of second day today.
Yes.
But it wouldn't have been possible without the lovely audience that we have. So I'll let you start wrapping this up, Kate. Let's, you know, get to the last 5 minutes of the Modern Data Fest party. Also, I know for a fact where I mentioned about the giveaway.
Yes, I was going to say, before we wrap, your final chance. How many winners are we picking here, Ravit?
We're picking 2 winners.
Two winners. Hashtag the Ravit Show.
Hashtag the Ravit Show.
Put that in the comments.
and we'll get the first winner out until there's also a good chance for others to type in the Ravit show. So I'll go and roll out the first
All right,
winner.
draw the first one, and then I'm sure go for it.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right, let's see. So you're getting some Ravit show swag, but I can assure you no one has a sweatshirt like me. I'll show it more when we're zoomed in.
Oh,
Scott Taylor, no way. I love it. Congratulations, Scott. Scott never
Amazing.
has enough swag. This is great. All right, so I see the hashtags coming in. You thank the audience. I want to thank the sponsors. So look, I've got a hoodie that is literally dedicated to the sponsors. Thank you to AtScale, Snowplows, Ataris, Starburst, Dremio, Seller Data, Late Data, Nextla, Count, which you just heard from Miko, and Sifle, you just heard from Salma as well. Couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for the speakers that literally we can't have a show without you. So thank you so much. I can't believe it's almost done. I know we still have to roll for one more winner. So if you want to get that back up, Ravit, let's
do it.
roll.
Let's do it. Let's do the drum roll. Let's see who the winner is.
All right. Drum roll.
Awesome.
If it's Scott again, I'm gonna give up here.
It's Monica.
Oh my God. So keep that up for a second. So Monica actually wrote an amazing write-up
The
of
event
yesterday's
review.
session. If you missed it, I have a feeling she's going to summarize today as well. The best summary you've ever seen. So thank you so much, Monica, for taking the time to do that. I think especially for folks who maybe don't have time nor the desire to sit through videos and audio sessions. Some people are just visual learners and they like to read articles. I think you provided a really great summary. So thank you so much. You deserve the win more than anyone. Sorry, Scott. you did a great job yesterday. So awesome. Ravit, it's been a huge pleasure partnering with you on this. I think the Modern DataFest was a huge success, and it's in huge part because I've been able to work with you and the Ravit show. So thank you.
Same here, Kate. It wouldn't have been possible without the DataCated and the energy that you bring to the table all the time. It's always been such a great way to just work around, maybe the holiday book party, maybe this Modern DataFest. I'm pretty sure this is just the first to many more which are coming. So audience, be ready for more speakers, more fun. Maybe next year, maybe 6 months. You never know with Kate. It could just be the next month again as well.
Maybe in person one day. This is a hint. So yes, definitely stay tuned.
All right. And yeah, we're done. We're done with Modern
We're
DataFest.
done. High five. Wait, hold on. High five. Wait, this way. Here.
Yeah.
Other way, Ravit. Other way. No. There we go. It's reversed. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see everybody online. We'll share the recordings later on today. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.